we can start talking on the record about being an empath. So I had an interesting experience. This actually happens to me quite a bit. I had an interesting experience over the last week, and it was in a reading, but it was really somebody who was teaching me a little bit more about what happens when you're empathic. She has emotional reactions that seem to break her out in hives. That at least that's what my guides told me. She's having an internal reaction to the environment around her. Now she's in an extreme environment. I'll say that readily. I don't want to make it sound like that's kind of a standard reaction of any one of us, but I've always kind of discounted the extreme fronts of where, what happens with people when they are an empath. Like, people get super emotional, they're crying, they're having fits, they're having physical reactions. And I think I've been in denial a long time for a very long time about what actually happens within me. For what happens to me is fatigue. So it just knocks me out. Like, I need 3 naps, a day to get through when I'm going through those phases. I've learned to manage that a lot better, much, much better than I used to, especially when I was a young teenager. But I also found, in just talking with her, it was just so interesting to me because I really found one of the more extreme cases, where she's in the grocery store and she's literally had to leave the mall, the grocery store, the department store, because she breaks out in hives. And it's not because she's having an allergic reaction to people. It's because she's having an emotional reaction to the senses around her. And she said a lot of the time it seems, and what I saw psychically is it seems to involve children. So kids are in the mall with mom, dad, and she gets a sense of what's really going on in their world, and it breaks her out. And I'm going, damn, that's a pretty strong reaction, but it's still her truth, and it's still what's happening to her. And the reason why I was so certain that it was happening is because my guides were telling me, and it kind of floored me a little bit. Wow, I just didn't know that it could be that serious for people, but it can be. And I'm sure it can be more serious than that. Hi, Tom. Hi, Steph. Thank you all for joining. Liz. Is that Liz? Wait, is that Liz? It's your friend?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I remember. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. Thank you all so much for joining and participating in the conversation. Somebody wants that last seat. Feel free to hop in by all means. I want to hear from other people about their experiences. Being an empath, I am certainly happy to pull from my guides, channeled information as far as what your experiences are about, what it really means, where you're going next. Like I said, the way I've seen response to this particular topic, I realized that I hit a nerve. I guess is the best way to say I hit a nerve. This was something that was a big deal for all of us. And I think for me, what it taught me is the same thing that I learned in doing like psychic fairs and things like that. Like, you always got to not get too far beyond your own thinking, because a lot of time we get caught up in our own head. And in my world, everybody's a psychic reader because I'm delusional like that, so on my planet, that's the world I live in. So I'm like, is this empathic thing really that serious? Well, apparently, like I said, it is. So now that I know that, I'm realizing that there were some additional things that we needed to talk about. So without further ado, I pulled some information about the symptoms of being an empath. And I'm going to, for those of you who either don't follow me on Facebook or are not a part of the group yet, I'm just going to go over a couple of the traits and just talk. We'll start the conversation there.
Don't you put me at 666.
What?
That's Tom. Tom is one of my friends, but he loves to put people at 666. It's a joke.
Oh my goodness. I'm not comfortable with that at all.
Yeah.
So there's 30 common traits, but I'm just going to go over a few of them. And as you hear something that hits home with you, let's talk about it. Let's talk about how it affects you and what you can do. What you can do beyond that point. So the first one is knowing. Empaths know stuff without being told. It's a sense, it's a feeling, something in your heart chakra that kind of, that almost tingling inside of you. It's a knowing that goes beyond intuition or gut feelings. Even though that's how many would describe the knowing, the more attuned they are, the stronger the gift becomes. So for many of you, and I know we talked a little bit last week about things like guides and connecting with your guides and other things like that. And I am now that I know what the need is, I am developing some coursework around that so that people can connect with their guides and begin to have those conversations. Because I tend to believe that the separation between being an empath and being full-blown psychic is connecting with your guides and having a firm, really secure relationship with your guides in that communication. So that's what allows you really to kind of take it to the next level and be certain. And as I said before, I said this last week, the real separating factor is confidence, but the confidence comes from that conversation that you're having with your guides and that communication that you're having. Yes, essentially you're talking to yourself, but it's your higher self that you're talking to. And and then being comfortable saying that out loud. I assure you, 3-5 years ago, if you'd got me on a video anywhere and been like, well, how do you hear this information? I'd be like, well,
I know.
think it's a voice that's sort of it's not, we're not really socially conditioned for this to be comfortable information, or for us to be able to talk about voices in your head, so to speak, or, that clear knowing. And I think that's really where it comes from for a lot of people, is that very clear knowing, that absolute sense that something either isn't right or is right, and that being the guiding force. You've heard people 1,000 times over talk about when they were about to get into a car accident, or when they were assaulted or something along those lines, something dangerous happened to them. And they're saying, the voice inside me said, just before it happened, I had a sense, or I had a feeling, or I kind of knew. It's like when you watch horror movies and they walk into the basement and you're going, really? Seriously? Who goes in the basement anymore? You know not to go in the basement. But it's that feeling, that sense that, dun, 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 like the Jaws, you know something's coming. And even on the positive, sometimes when your life is about to take off, and you're about to have amazing things happen to you, even if you're unaware of what that amazing thing is, it can be scary, but at the same time, there's a sense inside of you of, ooh, something's happening here. Something major is shifting inside of me. I can feel it happening, and I know something is about to catapult or grow or harness out of this, and I can't wait for it. I'm terrified because it feels a little like bungee jumping, but still, I can't wait for it. That clear knowing, that is really the first clues to your being an empath. You will hear a lot of people talk about connection to God, prayer, and all of these wonderful things. It really is just a matter of the language that you speak, whether it's, Catholicism or Christianity or spirituality. Doesn't really make a difference to me personally, because as far as I'm concerned, we're all getting towards the same goal here. You're trying to connect with yourself, you're trying to connect with your higher self, and therefore trying to connect with God. And that is that knowing, that's coming from somewhere. When you walk in the grocery store and you have a sense of what's going on with the cashier or the clerk at the counter, and something is either wrong in their life, and you're like, I just want to be able to, you almost want to put a hand out and say, I swear it's going to be okay. But who wants to invade each other's space that way? And we're so socially conditioned to think like, okay, that's not something you do. So instead, we give them the look and then walk around them, or we get that feeling and then we say nothing. And that, for human beings, I am finding, and in particular in asking people over the last couple of weeks, I find that that's more difficult than anything else, not being able to acknowledge the next human being when they're going through something, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whatever that thing is that they're going through, not being able to look them in the eye and say, I feel you. I know something's happening with you. I don't know what it is, but and I just want you to know, God's here, whatever it is that you would normally say to someone, even if it's just hello, goodbye, or a nice smile that really kind of, creates goodness in people's lives. A lot of the time we want to do that, but we get afraid. So without further ado, tell me about your empathic experiences. I know, Nikki, we talked a little bit last week about the knowing for you, and Alicia is really a psychic.
by my estimation.
I
don't consider myself a psychic, but I do want, yes, my children, beyond especially. I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
How do you guys, because I'm not as empathic as you guys, and I honor and respect, and I totally believe everything that you're feeling. How do you deal with that energy? And like, just like, I mean, I think if I could feel everybody's pain, I would go nuts. I don't have that. I have a little bit of a shield. I don't know if it's, I only have certain amount of planets in the house that, 12th house or whatever it is.
Ruling
I don't have that many. I have maybe like 5 or 6, but you probably have a ton of them. I don't feel that. I don't feel deprived in any way.
Okay.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I'm going to say this to you. You have a house with children in it. And I don't mean this curtly when I say it at all. I just recognize my niece and nephew come during the summer. My summers are really different from the rest of my year. I don't have time when they're here to be an empath. That's really what it boils down to. I'm just tired all the time. You don't have the option to say, I need a day.
Wow.
So that commercial with the dad that gets the flu and he comes in the room to the toddler who's in the bed and he's like, Daddy's gonna need a day off. Like, you don't get that option when you're a parent. So unfortunately, for you, and I only say this, Alicia, because I've listened to you talk enough to know, and I'm listening to my guides, and I know you have it. It's there. It doesn't affect everybody the exact same way either. You have what I imagine is a pretty organized sense of religion. So that may have allowed you some structure to release some of those feelings and get some of that out. And that does happen for people because you have prayer on a regular basis.
Right.
So the short answer to your question is really, for me, I had to learn to shield. I had to learn to, let's put myself in an energetic bubble or an energetic pyramid and walk through, places without and now here's the flip side of that tends to come off as separated from, or perhaps not emotional enough, because I've learned to put up the walls and not
have to
pull in that energy. That's been a 40-year learning process. When people judge and they go, oh, she's really not approachable. I'm like, no, I'm plenty approachable. I just don't want your stuff. That's all. Because your stuff takes every ounce of energy I got out of me. So knowing that in advance, I have to deal with people accordingly. And I'll be frank, some people don't always get to be in the inner circle anymore because they don't understand the concept of, this is the boundary. You have to stay on that other side of it. I can't constantly give you everything you need. You're going to have to figure out, as every single one of us do as human beings, especially adult human beings, how to fill your own well of need. I had to figure out how to fill it for myself, and it's not my job. But these are all things that I had to learn through the process.
I'm still learning.
It's a huge learning curve. It is. It's a very big learning curve. And not the hi, Patrick. Thanks for joining us.
I think
for me, thanks for joining us.
When it comes to the energies, I think the way I'm dealing with it is like, okay, but I do kind of have a wall, but that's because of who I am in general. So my wall is more like, if I know you, it's very hard to contain that mirroring of your thing. If I know you, it's extremely hard not to bounce that off. But if a stranger, let's say, was to approach me and they were talking to me and I could sense, like if I'm, like you said, at the grocery store and I could sense it, I'll feel it and I'll think of it again later that day, but it won't affect me to this extent. So I do have a bit of it's not as bad, it's not as strong, but dealing with people that like even on BLAB, the people that I've met and become friends with, whenever they're like having something going on, I feel that immediately because we've already connected. So that's really hard for me because I'm getting that from them and then I'm reflecting it and it's dragging me, and they know it. They know it as soon as I'm feeling down. Like the energy of the entire BLAB is different because my energy's down because I'm reading someone else's. So now everyone else is now reflecting off of me that I'm not this happy, bubbly person that I'm usually. So it affects everyone in that way. It's like I'm reflecting that person and then they're reflecting me. So it's funny.
No, I totally get that. And you know, something else I was going to ask you, do you find with the people around, like in your inner circle, your friends, your family, when they are doing the drain on you, do you find separating yourself from it or creating a boundary makes you feel guilty?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, and that's a symptom of being an empath, but it also is, and I'll say this just the way a psychologist would say it, it is also a codependency. And I only say that, and I'm saying it because I've experienced it, and hell, I still do. I have a mother and a father. We all got stuff. I don't ever want anybody to think that I don't know my own crap. Yeah. It's very hard to figure out how to find those fine lines. And a lot of it means recognizing in yourself, like, okay, this isn't really my job to fix. So, like Stephanie said last week when she was talking about her mom and her dad, that was so huge.
Exactly.
You know, like I just realized,
we were like, girl,
hello, because that's
I can learn that. I'd be happy now.
Especially when it's your parents, because that's a hard one. It's very hard to say to mom and dad, people who gave you life, no, I can't do that with you right now.
Yeah.
Or no, because that's not conducive to my lifestyle right now. That's a harder one to, or your children. That's equally, I mean, it goes both ways. Mom, I need, mom, I want, mom, please, please, please. Like, no.
The older I'm getting, though, it's not as, like, I don't feel as guilty because I'm knowing that it's best for me, period, at the end of the day. Like, if I go hang out with my dad and he's already had some kind of disagreement with my stepmother and his energy is on 0, and I meet with him and then his energy is on 0, and it makes me go down to 50 from 100. Before it even gets to 50, I'm just like, no, I can't. We can't. I can't. I have to, function.
You're getting it. You're getting it then. That tells me.
I said ever since I spoke to that one lady, Rebecca, like I've literally been so much better. Between Rebecca and Drea, I'm doing so much better with like dealing with everything that I've already known before anyway, but I've been hiding and stifling. So
Nikki, I have a question for you. Have you ever heard of human design?
I feel like I've heard of that, but I don't know exactly. It sounds like something I've seen like as a.
It's kind of like there was a guy named Ra who was given this information, and there's different types. And it sounds to me like you're a reflector, which would mean that your human design chart would be completely empty. And I'll show you what mine looks like. This is mine. That's what a human design chart looks like. I'm a manifesting generator, which means I cannot make things happen. I have to wait till they come to me, and then I run with it. Then I tell everybody. My job is to tell people that I'm doing things, and then just go and do it if it's something that I want to pursue. My daughter Gabriella, the one who sees dots, is a manifester. She says she's going to do it, and she does it. And she doesn't have to ask permission, and she doesn't have, and that's the way she is. The little thing. She just does whatever the hell she feels like it, whenever the hell she feels like it.
Oh, I love it.
As a mom, I have to understand that and try not to be so hard on her, because I know that's what she was born with. But a reflector always takes on the emotion of where they are right at that moment. So I'd be interested to know.
Which is hard for me because I'm so logical, but what you're saying is very true. So I'm always fighting. They're always fighting. Usually you only fight when like you have like an emotional situation specific, but I'm always battling all the time. I've had a trying week, I would say, from the weekend on. I've had a trying week, and I've had a lot of people reflecting their energies off onto me, and they were all bad and weird, and I didn't go with that when I should have, and kind of just because I always think like maybe I'm just being judgmental, and I talked to Dre about this. Like I was like, maybe I'm just being judgmental. Let me give it a shot, and then it backfired. I was like, damn it, it wasn't me judgmental. It was my instinct, and I'm always fighting between the two.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find that little like a website that'll tell you what you are. But the funny thing I didn't realize is that you can see your chart, but it changes in different years because things are turned on and turned off. But if you're a reflector, all those channels that I showed you are completely blank.
Interesting.
And so it's very interesting. So you'll need to know, what time you were born, where you were born, what day you were born. And it's like a combination of of like Chinese astrology, like astrology.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's human design.
Okay.
So
So Drea posted it in the comments, so I already clicked on it, so that way I can visit it later. But that's really interesting. And she said she was going to bring it up, so I'm not even surprised. That's why I was like, oh my god, when she wasn't here last week, I was like, damn it, this is so perfect. But she's like she said, she's getting her kid together and she's going to hop in. Like I'm excited.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. Yes. She'll be joining us shortly. I'm excited about that.
So fill that out. See what you are.
Too. A lot here. On the human site. That's wow.
So a friend of mine does this, but she's an international astrologer. She's in Italy right now. She is like my mom. I love her to death. And she made me this EFT tapping according to my gates in my human design.
Ooh.
That's not a guess.
I like the sound of that.
She says like she knows my different gates, and one of my favorite one is even though I'm a royal queen and I'm held in high esteem, I don't always acknowledge that. I deeply and completely love and accept myself.
Nice.
I delegate.
I like that.
It's awesome. As I step upon my royal throne is one of them, and I'm like, yeah.
I like it.
I would say to myself, oh my gosh, I feel like I must have been Queen of Sheba in another life, because I'm looking around me going, I don't like all of this. Where are my servants?
I get that. I pretty much think somebody's supposed to be doing the laundry for me too.
Dang. I have got to run, but I wanted to tell you really quickly. I'm glad I brought that human design in. I didn't tell you last week that my great grandmother was part Incan from Ecuador.
Wow.
So I always correlate, my psychic abilities kind of with, since I was part, native South American Indian, that there's got to be something drawn from that.
Yeah.
But I know that my dad's aunt claimed that she was too. So and they're from like Sicily, Calabria, it's all over there. So
wow.
I'm watching on my phone because I got to unfortunately do some laundry.
No problem. I get it.
I may chime in from my phone, but it'll be dark over there.
No worries. As long as you're still tapped in, that'll be good. Yeah.
And I'll be watching, Nikki. I want to know what you are.
It says projector, but I can see where like it says type projector, and then it tells you like the signature. I don't know what all these mean though.
Yeah, don't worry about that. So if you're a projector, that means that the only way your power is turned on is if someone invites you.
That's what it says. It does say that. It says wait for invitation.
Try to like push the issue. No one listens to you unless somebody invites you. Does that sound regular?
Yeah, I usually do wait until I don't like to bring up things unless there's an actual issue between us. I won't bring it up. But if there's something going on with you, you kind of, like she said on the side there, like Steph was saying, I hate having to wait till they come to you. And she said that. I saw her saying that on the side. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's basically what it is. Waiting for someone to bring the issue up because you don't want to just be like, well, I already know that you're having this issue because I feel it. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do that and freak them out and they'll back up even more.
They won't listen to you. And my friend, who's the astrologer, she's a projector as well.
Like Laura, Drea. Like Laura.
Now we got to find out what you are. Did you look?
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to go in there and check this. I think I clicked on both links. Yes, I did. I am going to play around with that. I love the idea that it seems like it merges what is Western and Eastern astrology. I love that concept already. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Really, really neat. It's really
that should be very interesting.
It is interesting, but if where'd you go? It was very interesting. It was very cool. I was fortunate enough to have a friend of mine who does the readings as well give me a 4 hours. Like I'm not kidding you, 4-hour reading for me and my children, and I have it on tape, so I can listen to it whenever I want.
Wow!
But what I found is, like, even though that was an extremely valuable gift, Kathy told me that there are certain times where you can recast it and it comes out differently because some of the gates that you can see here, like some of them change. Like one means unconscious, one means conscious, and they switch up sometimes. So you can have different experiences depending on the time. Like like she gave me like a solar chart for 2014, and then she gave me one that was for May 2015. And so it kind of, the different things change. So it's not just stagnant. There is one that you're born with, and that I think stays the same, but then the solar one changes.
Oh, I love the sound of this. I do. I love it. I absolutely love it. That sounds like a great tool.
She's awesome. So I would love, I think eventually what I'd like to do is have Kathy come on and give different examples of EFT, and then maybe like, I don't know, help one person. I have no idea. We're working on it. She's in Italy right now. I can't wait.
We could do it right on screen. I mean, I have a good friend here who's a EFT practitioner. I would imagine, I mean, I know some of it leaves, you know, where you can't see right in front of it, but still she could describe it to everybody and just have them do, like, she could be doing demonstrations, like right on
really
screen.
cool. She does a really, I'll put her link down here. She does a really cool blog, and then she's got a like full moon reading and new moon and full moon, and she talks about, you know, what's going on in the country, and she's really neat. And she's from England, which you'd love to hear her accent. Kathy Kirsten.
Nice.
Like 78.
I love a good accent. I do. I don't know. It just makes them all seem smarter than us. I don't really know why.
Right? Superiors.
Come on, it's your turn. Where's the British accent?
Oh my goodness. What? Say it again. Oh my goodness.
We both did an English accent. Go ahead.
Oh my God.
I never know what to say. I can do one, but I can't. I know what to say. I definitely can. This is all really interesting to me.
Nikki has an excellent English accent. Her English accent is spot on.
But I never know what to say, though.
Yeah. Who knew? I had no idea. Already, Nikki, you know what's going to happen next time. Next BLAB will just be featuring Nikki and various impressions of English accent. Oh my God, that's so funny. That's funny. I had no idea. That's funny. Okay. So, Drea, it is so nice to meet you. I have heard about you. I'm excited. I'm very excited. So, I'm sure you know the topic du jour is being an empath, experiences of being an empath, what the traits are of an empath, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get the idea. I understand that you have been helpful to Miss Nikki in helping her kind of hone in and focus her energy a bit. So I would love it if you would talk a little bit about that, so people kind of get a sense of how that works and what it looks like.
So I guess a little bit about me is I have been, when I was about 15, I got into astrology. I kind of broke away from mainstream religion. I'm in Utah, and so
like the mainstream religion. I swear.
Yeah, totally. So when I was about 15, I kind of moved away from that because I felt like there was just so much more out there to learn. So I started with astrology. About a year and a half later, the person who became my mentor taught me how to do tarot readings. And so it kind of started from there. So I would just take my cards and go to parties and read people's cards all the time and like really develop this sense of, oh, this is how this works. And I've kind of been off and on. In the last 10 years, it's been like, put it down, pick it up, put it down, pick it up. But I feel like everybody is tweeting right now. I feel like...
thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. With Nikki, it was one of these things, like when I found BLAB, I remember being like, the first thing was like, I was like, I don't know about this girl. But I was like, let me just listen to her because I need to not make a prejudgment on who she is. I need to like actually go like, is she really mean, or she just like got this serious face all the time?
Right.
And it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, where you were like, sometimes people think you're completely like not approachable, but it's just because you essentially have this energetic wall in front of you that's like, I'm not just letting anyone in is the whole goal. So after a while of like getting to know her and actually talking to her, I was like, I connect with you on such a deep level. Like I would not have expected it from a medium where I'm just like, I'm playing with social networking and here we are. And now I appreciate her being like, oh, she's really helpful, because I wouldn't have expected that. I know that I have been helpful, but
she has said it several times. So I want you to know she's singing your praises. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm humbled by that, like 100%. I just feel like me and her have talked about this. I have like certain people who call me and they'll specifically just be like, I need to know something about this, that, or the other. And a lot of times it's just personal relationships. They just need some sort of like direction. And so usually I'll come back and go like, oh, here's the psychology I get from it. When I was listening to the previous BLAB, I was like, there were certain things you were talking about, and I was like, part of this totally resonates with me. There's certain things I don't usually see things. I see shadows and like things out of the corner of my eye sometimes, but nothing
You and I have a lot in common. I'll get into it in a minute, but go on, please.
Right. But when I do readings, and sometimes even when I don't do readings, when I'm just having a conversation with somebody, it's just like the back of my mind is like, say this, like, this is what you're thinking. And then sometimes I'll be in the middle of a conversation and I'll be like, I just need to listen for a second. Like, hold on, let me just hear for the words, because
that's exactly how I read.
Right.
Oh my God, that's exactly how I read. I'm like, give me a sec.
Yeah, like, let me hold on. And so I talked to another girl on here and I was like, I don't understand. I was like, I would like to know more about the guides. Like, I'm genuinely interested in that. Okay. But what I didn't get was directive on the fact that you got to kind of specify who you want to hear from, because there's certain ones that are trying to take you the wrong way rather than the right way.
Well, I'm going to say this to you about that, and I'll just say this really quick.
Please.
I'm a big believer that everything is about a belief system. Just like Catholicism and Islam and Christianity are belief systems, so is everything in spirituality. If you think that the negative entities can come and get you, and I say this somewhat arrogantly because I've had to kind of regroup and get it together in my thinking on this, but I'm a big believer that if you think that negative energies can affect you, then they have the potential to affect you. Yep. If you don't, and you're dealing with your guides, and there's a lot of different people, so to speak. I call it your spirit squad. You have a guardian. Sometimes you'll have more than one guardian. You have spirit guides, you have angels, you have archangels. You have a lot of people, I like to say, in the sky who are, looking out for your benefit. And some of them are on your team specifically. And then some of them are just, Archangel Michael. Well, he's working for everybody. Let's be honest. I mean, you're doing Reiki, he's working through you. You need some help, you call on him, you're just going to show up. That's just the way it works. So what I would say to you only about that part, you're right. You can let negative in if you're not conscious enough of this is only what I'm looking for. But I say to you, and I said this to Alicia last week about her daughter, you always get to decide. There is no such thing as the chupacabra, and that's my own kidding word in my head for all the negative entities. There's no way they're coming in unless you let them. Yep. So you have to make a heart, and I'm a Taurus. So wait for it, folks. I'm as stubborn as they come. And I don't take no guff. So, just like I'm on the street, like, no, you can't touch me. No, stop it. Stop thinking about it. I work the same way with guides. It's like, no, you can't come in here because you're not allowed. I've helped people actually do clearings and buildings and different locations for exactly the same reason. Now, while that's not my stock and trade, and I actually have a friend who does, that is her stock and trade. That's what she does most of the time. But the only thing I'm so, you have to cut me off, by the way.
Fine.
I'm very long-winded.
Totally.
But what I would say to you is, as long as you have set up there are spiritual contracts, you can literally put in writing what your spiritual contract is. That's where you can write out with your spirit guides what you want, with your guardian, what you want. And my guardian is Archangel Gabriel. So the way he was presented to me, and I didn't know what a Gabriel was because I wasn't raised in the church. So when he first showed up, he showed up in a coat of arms with a sword. I'm like, okay, I'm good. We can stop talking now, because this guy for sure got my back 100,000%. I'm never worried. But I'm going to let you go on. But what I would say to you is, and we can talk more about how to go about doing that, because I'm actually developing some coursework around that right now, around how to shield and how to deal with being an empath and then moving into psychic development. But go ahead, because I love to hear you talk, Drea, because you and I really do have a lot in common.
Thanks. Definitely. So I went to massage school about 10 years ago. And when my massage school was super, it was small and it wasn't like big mainstream, try to get you on a ship. It was like real focus on the energy work aspect. And that's what I gravitated towards with the most. Was I took a lot of energy work classes rather than actual physical tissue manipulating, because I realized that I could put my hands on someone and just let the universe do the work, like let the energy flow through and just be what I was meant to be to them, which was just a conduit. So that's where I picked up that first and foremost, was like, I absolutely consistently am like all the way around really good at saying, like, all you got to do is put up those blockers. Somebody tries to project something at you, you put up those blockers. I don't need all that. And
In
when I
massage,
did
that's
this.
kind of tough too.
I'm gonna scoot, guys.
Yeah.
I'll see you
In
later.
massage because you're touching.
Bye.
Bye, Alicia.
Bye, bye, sweetie.
100%. If you don't have that, like they teach you that too, that you got to kind of get yourself centered before you walk into it, because you're going to walk away with a lot more than you think you're going to walk away with.
Right.
And so that was where I first kind of got the concept of, okay, energy, pliable, and thought controls it. So you put your right projections out there, you'll be set, you'll be all right. And so the other thing that I realized was, all it was that I just wasn't specific. So I was like, hey, I just need a sign that someone's listening. And let me tell you, I got a weird sign, but I know that that's what it was, because I was like, where did this even come from? And I asked my mentor, I said, like, what is this? And she goes, you just got to be specific, because there's a lot of energies out there. And if you're like, hey, show me a sign you're here, any one of them is like, I'll show you a sign. And so she's like, you just need to be specific about which ones you're trying to communicate with, and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. So then I went back and I was like, okay, whoever that was, like, I wasn't looking for that. And I'm okay with, like, you stay on your side, I'll stay on mine. And so I was like, okay, I'll revisit that later on. But it was just funny because, and I don't even know how to explain it, because my fiance is like, I don't think that's what it was. And I'm like, I know that's what it was, but okay. Like, you don't have to get into the etherical stuff.
Because you have to know yourself.
Totally.
Otherwise, everybody will decide for you, that's not real.
Yeah.
My dad all the time says to me, I don't really believe in that psychic woohoo. Mind you, this is how I pay the bills, y'all. I'm like, really? Really? For real? And I'm like, he says that, but he does. But that's what he tells me. I'm like, fine, we'll just roll with it for now.
That works. Yeah.
But yeah, and Nikki, that's where I was going last week with that clear knowing, that under that sense of that it's the confidence. That's the difference between those beginning stages of the empath and when you get to that further up phase where you're going, okay, I'm certain this is very real. This thing is turned on.
That's what Rebecca told me.
Say it again.
That's what Rebecca told me. She told me it's about trust. You have to trust it, and not trusting it, and it is not going to allow you to have the confidence you need to really hone in on it like you need to. And that's like the best, easiest way, simple way to like understand it. Like I'm not trusting that instinct, and I'm still not 100% because I'm a girl. So we have our moments where we judgy wedgy. So I was like, okay, like Amila's like, maybe I'm just being a little bitchy, you don't know what it is. Yeah. So you think about it. And so at the end of the day, it's just he does that in every BLAB I go into. But yeah, so I'm learning how to really just trust it. And I think sometimes I am still judging, but I'm still gonna go with it more than I am gonna just like ignore it. I'm gonna like, okay, let me just take this with a grain of salt. So maybe I'll enter it, but I won't dive as head first in like I usually would. Just watch it and do it slowly. And don't just be like, I love everyone, because that's just how I am. So I have to like not do that. I have to kind of just like grain of salt every little thing. Like, okay, I got that vibe. I'm an explorer, but I'm going to explore it to a certain extent to which I won't get hurt. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay. So please go on, Drea, because you were talking, you were really giving us a little bit of your bio and who you are. And I love it.
She just got me into tarot. She does tarot, and she just got me into it, and she's so good at it that I just couldn't even believe. I was just like, what the hell?
Well, I hadn't really thought about it, but I was like, you know what? Let me just put it out there that I know how to do it. And I have like 3 or 4 people who are like regulars who come to me like every 6 months or so and say like, hey, I need a reading real quick. And so it's not like this big business. I've wanted to do it further, but I feel like I want to kind of rebuild myself before I get there. Sure. So when I got on here, I was like, I know how to do this. Do you guys want help? And like, you want me to hurry and do it real quick? Because like, it helps me build when I don't have this deep history with you like I have with my regulars. It helps me like totally work on those abilities and stuff. So I've done like quite a few like now, and I'm essentially, that's what like really connected us to, is I was like, once you kind of do that for somebody, you get a really good layout of where they're at as a person. And so in a way, it's very personal.
Right. So
you just go, oh, like, okay, thank you for letting me see that.
Right.
Like, I'll keep that to myself. And then a lot of times I don't remember them. I remember certain key points, because if they come back to me and they're asking the same question, I'm like, you already asked about this. But I don't, it doesn't absorb, because you're just listening to it go. It's like a recorder just projecting. And the other thing, go ahead. Sorry, I could talk forever.
Nikki, are you and I following each other on Facebook?
No, I didn't even, because we didn't talk about the Facebook. I think I had to hop off. I remember I had to hop off last time, so maybe I didn't get to the point of the Facebook.
Yeah, let's make sure we're following each other on Facebook. That way I'm always able to communicate with you outside. That way I can make coherent decisions here.
Do you want to DM me it on Twitter or something? Like your
yes, exactly.
Yeah,
precisely. Exactly. So here is what, let me start with this, Drea. And this is, yes, I would love for you to, I don't, just like everybody else when they get in there, I'm like, you're going to answer a psychic question? I don't miss a chance to get a psychic reading now.
Yeah, for sure.
But I was going to tell you some of the commonalities. Your first love was astrology, so was mine. And it was about the same age.
Me too, the same exact age.
And I find that so interesting in people because astrology, I really consider to be a science. There's so many levels and layers to it. It involves the planets, just not to mention astrology is one of the oldest religions on earth. Yep. I mean, you can find it in almost every holy book. I won't start. But my point, okay. Oh, I see what he's asking there. Got it. Oh, that's kind of a cool question. And it's a good one.
I am very... It's funny because since I've been on here, I haven't been this way because I've been very open to people just because of what I'm trying to accomplish and grow. But as far as usually in my personal life, I keep my feelings sacred. It's very sacred for me to tell you how I'm feeling. It's not something that I just kind of tell everybody. But if I care about you, I have no problem telling you that. But as far as every piece and every aspect of what I'm feeling and thinking, I will keep it to myself because I'm still assessing it. You know what I'm saying? Especially with between my mental and the empath and all that other stuff going on. I can't just go, boom, here's everything because it might be different. You know what I'm saying? It may not be what I'm assessing. I may not be even reading it right in my own mind. So I can't just be like, hey, here's this information that I feel. Right. That word is probably my first name, I think. Not my middle name, but my first name.
I love it. I love how you say that's my first.
Because that's legit. That's how you know it was a legit reaction. Yes, I am misunderstood a lot in so many ways because for one, my sign, and then just the assumptions of a Black woman. You know what I'm saying? I'm from New York. It's a lot of things that play into just being all the things that I am. There's so many assumptions in general about being a Black woman, being young, being from a New Yorker. We got attitudes. It's just so much piled on top of who I am. And then when people actually get to know me, they'd be like, oh, she ain't like that.
I know. All those assumptions I made early on. Oh, she's lovely. She's lovely.
It happens to me every day.
Yep. As we've gotten further too, I've just realized Aquarians are the hardest ones for me to read. They always have been because they're always changing. And so that's why I kind of have to like you said, hone in with them and really get on a one-on-one with them because they don't let you see them unless they let you see them.
To Derek, I wouldn't say that I do get easily hurt or offended. The older I'm getting and the more comfortable I am with who I am, it's not as easy to offend me. Like that guy who was, just in here, he does it all the time. I don't care. People usually go, she's a 10 or a 9 or, you know what I'm saying? And they'd be like, why are you asking that? You know what I'm saying? If I was offended, I would always be like, why are you here? Why are you doing? I wouldn't care about what you're saying. It's like, even if everybody in here said I was a 0, I'd still be like, so how does that change my life at all? Right. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, definitely not. But he's got some great questions. For sure. I don't get easily. I used to, as a teenager, I would snap like that. Now it's like, it takes a while, probably weeks to build up things in me to actually get to the point where I explode. But it would have to be me having to deal with somebody or something on an ongoing basis that eventually, I'm human. I will erupt, but not even to the extent to which I used to. Exactly. And it depends on who they are to me. Because if it's somebody I don't care about, it's like, psh. But let's say I care about Drea a lot and Drea did something to betray me. I would be hurt by that because I didn't see it coming because I didn't expect that of her. And expectations play a lot into getting hurt and offended. You cannot have too many expectations of people. They're all human and people make mistakes. And once you realize that, you're all right. It's just about I'm analytic. Yeah, I said that. I was like, yo, if you're my best friend and you steal from me, I will be more inclined to ask you, why did you feel like you needed to steal? What did you need that you couldn't have just asked me? Then I would be like, why are you stealing from me? Who are you? Like, I wouldn't do that. It would be like, what is going on in your life that you feel that you couldn't just come to me? That's all. That's how I am. I want to know more about why than the other stuff. Yeah, but then we talked about this earlier, remember, Drea?
I was going to say that.
We talked about this earlier. We were talking about how a lot of people are like, you shouldn't care what other people think, but there's two sides to that. It shouldn't dictate who you are, as Drea said earlier to me, which was the perfect way to say it. But it does matter because that is your lasting impression on the world. And you do want it to be who you are truly. You don't want it to be some fake thing that people have made up about you because you didn't come off the way you would like to.
And I'll also add this, and Nikki, I think you probably experience this just as much as I do, and probably more. We're also small business owners.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Yep. When people walk away, even with an impression on personality, for me in particular, because the business I work in is human connection, everything I do is really spiritual. So if somebody has an impression of me that is something else, granted, they're probably just not the right client for me. But when you are trying to put yourself out there in that sense and let people know what it is you do, that can be a little tricky. It can. You want to be authentic, but at the same time, you don't want people deciding based on 10 minutes worth of, even a blab, you're never going to get to know all of me in this conversation, but it at least gives you a snippet of how I function, how I talk, some of the things that are my belief system. You figure out whether or not that resonates with you. But I totally get where you're coming from on that, because that's tough when you're a business owner.
I use the same thing that I use in my everyday life as I do in work. If I don't feel that vibe there, if it feels bad, I won't do it. I won't get into that contract with you. It's just like when you in Mercury retrograde and you don't do contracts. If I get that bad vibe, I'm not doing it because I don't need it. It's not worth it. That money that I'm going to get from that client is not worth what I'm probably going to have attached to me moving forward. You know what I'm saying? I don't want that person attaching themselves to me and me carrying that around everywhere I go moving forward with other people. So, you know what I'm saying? So if I get that vibe, I just don't.
Steph, you just said a mouthful there. And that's something I'll be frank, I'm in that process now. I'm further along than I was, say, 6 months ago. And some of that has to do with my age, because you're so right. What affects you in 20, it feels very different. And it's just your reaction to it is very different later on in life.
You say 20.
About what people think or how people feel about. And more importantly, you don't find yourself always trying to curtail or become someone else just so you can placate, especially if it is not a specific kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agreed.
Hi, Steph.
Hey.
Hi, Steph.
I turn 40 tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Congratulations. I'm so excited.
As my parents would say, I made it. But right around the age of 30, I finally kind of came to that place of not really worrying about what other people think of me. As long as I'm happy, as long as I am confident in the way I'm handling a situation, and I'm happy with the way I'm handling it, then, I think that's enough. And I think people see that that's enough, and they see that confidence and that authenticity.
I agree.
And I've had some people react negatively to that, but almost always it's something going on with them.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's almost always something going on with them, and you kind of have to just let that go. And sometimes those folks, if it's somebody I know, they may come back to me later and be like, I don't think I really meant that, or can we talk about what's going on with me or whatever. So
yeah, I agree.
Oh,
this is Rebecca. Rebecca, I got her in here. Hello.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, and this is the thing we were talking about earlier, is I think from a business perspective, it makes sense to want to make sure you have that impression lasting that's on a positive note. And I agree with you also that you also can't, you just have to accept that sometimes people are just not going to like you, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
And you have to just kind of, not everybody's going to agree with you. But what I was talking about with Nikki was I I have lasting relationships with pretty much all of my exes. And it's mainly just because for me, I feel that makes me feel lighter to know that like, this is someone I cared about, someone I was with, and we've moved on in a new direction. And I feel like, I guess when it comes to that, those kind of interpersonal relationships, that's where I also try to do the same thing I would do in business, where I want to keep a level kind of playing field where we're not like, we don't hate each other. We're not feeling heavy because every time we think about the other person, we have this awful sour taste. But I do agree.
And not feel like,
I agree. I don't think that at the same time, I don't think other people's opinions of you absolutely should dictate how you feel at all. No, if you did that to yourself, you'd be miserable all the time.
Because you find yourself turning yourself into a pretzel, trying to become what the next person. And you know what? Okay. I find all the time that in my 20s, and I relate this really to my career, I was trying to turn myself into a pretzel on a regular basis, trying to become all of the things that I need. This is when I was a case manager, Steph. I was just, because we worked under heavy obligation. We had big, giant contracts, especially for the city that we worked in. And I always found, I wanted to impress my boss. I wanted to impress my mentor. I was always trying to become everything to everybody. Right. All this while being an empath. And this is the earlier stages of empathy for me. So while it served me as a case manager, it also left me with a whole lot of, what's wrong with me? I'm so emotional. There was a lot of that going on for me then.
Yeah.
And, Derek asked a really good question earlier about hurt feelings. And I wanted to just dive into that for a quick second, because I will say this, and I've noticed this about myself, and people always said 40. Woo, that's like the holy grail moment. I'm like, sure it is. There's something to it, because even at 35, I was far more sensitive, far more concerned about what people think, how they feel, whether they, I just find that I'm evolving way beyond that. And I'm also learning to separate what's yours and what's mine in the way of emotions. And that's a huge part of being able to shield yourself empathetically. Because a lot of the time, the empathy, Nikki, you said it best. If you're with a stranger, you're able to compartmentalize and keep that at bay. It's with your family and with your friends and the people that you care about most, or the people you do business with. That's when it's right here, and it's, pulling at every piece of your heart chakra. And you're like, oh my God, seriously, somebody help me. I love that, Alicia. What people think of us is absolutely none of our business. It took me a while to what that really meant.
That's why I would never want to. I would never. Whenever I get asked that questions about what would your power be, it's never going to be read minds, because that's too much.
Thank you.
It's too much. It's bad enough. We're kind of reading minds by getting the energy from people in the first place. I don't need the details of that. I would never sleep.
Yeah, it's not fun. Because what happens a lot of the time, and here's the thing, I have a whole ethical.
See, that's why I like her. She's always giving me the what's coming next. So it's like she's very in tune with everything. So she's telling us now what to watch out for as the days are coming, forward.
I've heard about this asteroid too. I need more information on that.
Yeah, if she wants to jump up, I'll totally step down to let her in.
No, I can get off.
Let me back, because we're so not done. Because
I will. I gotta go take care of
your bio and stuff, and we're not finished yet. But yeah, if you don't mind, I would like if you're good multitasking. She's not jumping in. I don't think she's jumping in. I totally get that, because I find myself doing that a lot, where I'm on and I jump on people's blabs all the time, but I'm doing that. I'm creating sales funnels. I'm whatever 5 I have right now. I have 10 tabs open, so that's right on. I'm sure you can relate, because you're doing this all the time for other people. So it wouldn't shock me at all. Yeah, multitask. And here's the thing: sometimes it works. Sometimes you're just giving very little attention to like 40 different things, and it's like, it goes so well, for only so long. But I do my best. I do my best at that. I was going back in my mind to what Derek's question was about being sensitive, because he was asking some really good questions.
Perfect. I'm going to step down, go take care of the toddler. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. Yeah. I was just thinking about how he was, hey, it's Rebecca. How he was speaking on, if you're sensitive, hello, how are you, my dear? Hey there.
How is everyone?
Awesome. Wonderful to have you. I think I'm following you already. I am following you already. All righty. Interesting. I love that.
Are you ready for the asteroid?
It says Intuitive Ninja Reiki Master. I absolutely love that. She's
so cute.
That is sweet. I like that one. Yeah, Ninja Reiki Master.
So tell me about the asteroid.
Somehow employ these words because they're just
the asteroid.
Yes.
It is due on October 31st, Halloween, and they're labeling it spooky. It's called the Spooky Asteroid, and it is. So if you look at the Donald Trump Tower, like the height of that, it's probably like 9 times bigger. So it's seriously coming close to the Earth. It's a serious magnitude, and the effect that that's going to have on all empaths or all sensitives, I would say, was at least 3 days worth of extreme tiredness if you're affected in that way. The Earth empaths among us, Earth sensitives, however you like to call them, probably I would say that theirs will start about 2 or 3 days before as the asteroid gets closer to us, and probably 2 to 3 days afterwards. So it's important to drink lots of water to flush ourselves out, to stop dehydration, and make sure you get to bed a half an hour earlier than you normally would to combat the tiredness that's coming with it. Be really aware that the entire world will feel it in some energetic way. So tired, grumpy people everywhere. Watch out for the mums, you know.
Thank you for telling me.
When's this expected? Halloween.
Okay.
Yeah, 310,000 miles from Earth. Yeah, slot. I love slot and solarham.com. If you're an empath, it's important to know when solar flares are happening because that affects us greatly. And if you can amp up your water intake and be aware of these things, then you let go of a lot of the issues that empaths deal with energetically, especially the Earth empaths. It's also, there's a big earthquake coming, so Solarham predicted. So again, a lot of the empaths out there, Earth empaths, will start feeling quite lightheaded, quite dizzy, and it's really important to ground yourself.
So I keep hearing like Earth empath. Like, are there different? Can you explain a little bit about the like Earth, or what's the difference between whatever? I don't know the other ones.
Well, a lot of the empaths out there are what people do, you know, the traits of an empath or whatever you happen to be. Everyone seems to fall into the category of an emotional empath, but which is where you feel the emotions of other people. That seems to be the one when you're first on your journey, you're awake, your intuition is starting to heat up, you start to feel the emotional benefits.
Yeah, she's like, it might not be beneficial, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So after that, as you become more fine-tuned, or maybe if you're not, it depends how you're awake, if you're born with it, whatever. Right. There's an Earth empath, which means you feel the energy of the Earth or the universe surrounding you, and it's happening. So if there are big explosions anywhere, if there are volcanoes, earthquakes, anything earthly or universally, asteroids, obviously, solar flares from the sun, you're going to feel it, and you're going to feel it in harsh ways. And if you're not aware of it, then you could be thinking, hell, what's up with my mood? Why do I feel like this? When it's not actually yours, it's the Earth's. So the quicker we become aware of these things, the more we can let them go. The same as an emotional empath. Then you've got the physical empaths. I'm a medical intuitive, so the physical empath side of me is really important. I can jump into another person's body and feel absolutely every ailment of them because I've fine-tuned myself. For the ones that haven't, they could be walking past someone in the supermarket and come out with a cold and go, what the hell? You know, or a whopping headache or a sore throat, and then they get home and they're fine, and they're like, what just happened right there? And have no awareness again. There are clairvoyant empaths, there are clairsentient empaths, you know, all the 4 clairs. There are animal empaths who feel the emotional and physical ailments of animals and have a close connection with them. There are the geomancy ones, which are, again, a different type of earth empath, but you feel more of nature. So they're feeling the trees. So you see some of those people out there that feel at home in nature, and they can put their hand on the tree and they can feel the energy of the tree. So that's your earth empaths going hard out. So there's 10 different sorts, and not everyone will fit into every category. Some might fit into one, some might fit into 2, 3, 4. Whoever knows. That's basically what it's all about.
Yeah, that's why I every time I talk about this, I always bring you up, because you're the person who, not that you didn't introduce me to it, because remember, I had known, but you made me feel comfortable talking about it. And then ever since then, I've just been leading to more people who are into it. And I came across this last week, and this is the second time I'm doing this BLAB with, how do I say your name? Asaki? Okay, Asaki. And so it's just been really, really, really good for me. And it's been helping me in every part of my life for sure. So I always have to give credit to you, because I felt comfortable talking to you about it. And you're always so cheerful and like ready to help. So I love that about you.
Pick you out. Thank you. So what else have you guys got going on? What are we discussing?
We are really, the topic is just that, all about empathy and being an empath. But I would love if you would tap into some of the specifics on how to shield when you are, because that's really, I think a lot of what brings people to this topic is, yeah, I get that. I'm sure that's happening to me. I know this is happening to me. Now what? Like, what do we do now?
I have a blog on my website. I'm an empath. Now what?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Exactly. That should be
every time when you guys talk about the beginning of it, it's so perfect for me. Like, everything that you guys say for the beginning is the truth. It's like, that's where I'm at. I'm like, oh my God, that's where I'm at right now. I'm still figuring it out and honing in, but it seems to be happening really fast for me. It's like, because I'm ready for it, I think. Not only that I'm open to it, but I'm ready to get it.
And you're aware to it. So you're attracting people that are like-minded, so that you can share and research information to obviously make your life happier.
Because I would much rather learn from speaking to you guys than looking up stuff online, because it's just words on paper. I would rather share experiences and understandings through that than just looking up everything, because I could just research the heck out of it, but it's not that I'm not going to get the same connection that I would get just feeling it from you guys.
Yeah, it's the authenticity of it. As far as protection goes, I'm all about, I'm a core mentor or a core strategist. So I like to help the empath get to their core issues before they even look at protection, because without the awareness of what's going on inside of them, how do they know what's theirs and what's not? So I like to help the empath tune into their own wisdom, their own abilities, their own gifts, sort that out and go, okay, you're an earth empath, then this is the way you need to protect yourself. But if you want an everyday run-of-the-mill protection, I always go, and I think it originally came from Doreen Virtue, to put yourself in an egg. Put yourself in an egg. I changed it because I'm a bit pretty and put myself in a lipstick tube. So when I get up in the morning before my feet hit the ground, I put up a virtual lipstick tube and I put the lid on and I choose the color. It's normally a pretty pink or a red or whatever energy center is not working out so flash for me that day. And I say, you know, I emit love out or whatever you want out, but nothing is to come in. Intention is everything.
Right.
Everything. So you intend that nothing will get through your shield, full stop, and it won't.
Just said the magic words. I like you. I do. I like you. Everything is about intention. Everything is about intention.
Everything is about intention. Intention and awareness. If you don't have an awareness, then you can't hold an intention correctly. So I'm all about getting to the basis of things, understanding who you are as a person and going from there.
Absolutely. That
the camera lens? Like, what is that?
You know, the cool thing about it, was that I called him out, and he has oh geez, those are my kids. He is known for doing things in threes. His name was Joey James Johnson, and he went by on the camera 3 times. And so the third time, I'm getting goosebumps. The third time,
me too.
I said, Joey James Johnson, say hello to the camera. And if you like put it up really loud, you can hear me saying that. And He went by, and I took it home, and I just had this intuition, this knowing that if I just turned it this way, and there he was.
Oh my God.
So I'm like, people, I have physical proof.
Yeah, that was for sure his face. No question.
I mean, you could totally even see it. Now we saw the picture of him living. Like, there's no way you can like you totally see his face.
Yeah, hell yeah. I was like, boom.
Wow.
Oh, I know.
When you say he's with you, what do you mean that he's with you? Like, he just visits you, or does he stay with you? Like,
time. He's not. He in the beginning, the reason why I got in touch with him is because his mom was like going to kill herself. She was like so beside herself. She was so like, and I didn't even talk to her. I was at a carnival. It was loud. It was nighttime. I was with my kids, and my girlfriend Maury said, "Oh my God, Alicia, I know you talked to this. Like, please, Michelle's just gonna she's flipping out. She needs to know that he's okay. He's okay." So I saw like red ribbon and a frog in a field, and he was running, and all good things. So I told her that. Well, wouldn't you know, the next day, not Michelle, the mom, I didn't even know her name was Michelle. I just knew her as Joey's mom. As a matter of fact, I had her on the phone as Joey's mom because I didn't know her name. And so Maury got red ribbon all over her house, and she would vacuum it up and it would come back. She would vacuum it up and it would come back. Her daughter is psychic and would have play dates with Joey after he died. And so she knew that there was something. And wouldn't you know, after that, everywhere they all went, frogs, 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 frogs in the trees, frogs. So, it became true. And then soon after, I was at a party, a home party that I was doing. And I saw him going for this baby. He was going to go touch the baby. And I almost went, "No, Joey, don't touch the baby." But I was like, and I just like stopped there. And I instantly knew the mom had a baby. It was a girl. Her name was Josie, or she was pregnant. And wouldn't you know, she had this baby 3 days before he died.
Wow.
Oh my God.
My goodness. So this woman was under like super hormones. Her son just died. It was a month after he died. And eventually we got a chance to talk to each other. Like, I talked to her now. Her name is Michelle. And, but I knew that he had a sister and her name was Josie. And so they called her Go-Go, but the father would sometimes call her Josie. And I'm like, no. Joey said Josie. And so Dad got a tattoo that said Josie. And so one day we were talking and I'm like, "Was it JoJo or Josie?" And she's like, "Oh my God, my husband got a tattoo that says Josie." I'm like, sorry, it was Josie. But it was just really cool. So Joey doesn't hang around with me all the time. At the time, and then the time we were talking to his mom, he was with me a lot. And he would just be like, "Can I walk with you, Miss Alicia? Can I?" And he would be at Mass all the time. And when I would go, when they have the Eucharistic portion where you're supposed to be quiet and you're kneeling, I always go into kind of like a contemplative meditative state. And he was always there. It was Joey and then this other little boy who had passed away, his name is David. And I tried to talk to his parents, but the parents are so Catholic, they refused to talk to me. And he would say, "Miss Alicia, will you tell my parents that I love them?" This was David. Aww. And I would be like, "Okay." And I'd be like, "Hi, Lisa, just want to let you know sometimes," and she's like, nothing, no talking, backed off, nothing. I just wanted to tell her that her son wanted to let her know she was okay, but she was not open to it. And I don't know if she ever will be. But he was a beautiful boy in a wheelchair, and he died right before Hurricane Sandy, I believe it was. Wow. And I thought to myself, God forbid they lost electricity, because he was like connected and, he needed special care. He could have passed if they were out of electricity, and it would have been a horror for the parents to have lost him that way versus he just fell asleep and never woke up. So... But Joey's not with me all the time. But I mean, I can talk to him and he'd be there in 2 seconds. But the woman who found the red ribbon has a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and so she would say to me, "Ask Joey, am I going to be okay? Am I going to be all right? Ask Joey, ask him." And I'm like, "Okay." And he would tell me that Miss Maury was going to be fine, and she's still suffering through it, but if I need him, he'll come and help me. And sometimes if I'm struggling, he'll come and encourage me. "You can do it, Miss Alicia," but it's not like he's with me constantly. It's, he comes if I need him,
Wow.
Stephanie asking a really interesting question about picking your guides. here is what I have been taught and what I've also heard divinely from
I'm gonna go because it's late and I gotta go to bed.
Okay.
Okay, Alicia.
Not so much that you pick your guides, more that you are able to see, feel, hear your guides, and they're going to come in based on what's going on in your life. So some of your guides are going to be with you from birth, and they just walk you through the whole journey. Some will show up during your divorce. Some will show up during your marriage. Some will show up when you're given childbirth. Some will show up when you are unemployed and you just can't figure out what's supposed to happen next. From what I have been told divinely, they're actually all there from birth. They're all there. They just come forward when it's most appropriate. They show up, in other words, and they're much more prevalent when, in fact, they are, when they're needed, really. That's really what I understand guides, their purpose and how they really kind of work in your world. So it's not so much that you are guides are going to come to you based on what you need. And I know a lot of the time people are looking for specific people to be guides. I get this a lot. People will call me. They want to tap into, their grandmother or their aunt or their uncle who has since passed on, which is fine, wanting that confirmation for whatever reason you want it. But a lot of the time they want to know, is that person my spirit guide? No, not necessarily. Now, I have also found that many of your relatives will be almost like conductors in the background. While they may not specifically be listed, as a guide per se, they may also be somebody who is in the background kind of observing and watching what's going on. They're forever with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're literally walking you through that process like your spirit guides are. So it really depends.
The first day when I met Rebecca, she told me that I had because she remember she does that. She reads that the spirits, and I don't know what it's called. I don't want to misquote, but she was saying that she saw a small boy with an afro, and she saw an older white man in a like a uniform, like a war person. And I don't know what that is, because remember, I'm adopted, so I don't really know anything about anybody in my actual family. So it's just so interesting to me now that I'm actually trying to actively figure out what's going on and where I'm from and who's my family and all that. So when you said that about that being in the background, that's what I thought of it. She said she only got good things and good energy from them. So I was like, okay, that's good.
So I have a story as to why I asked that question. And the reason is because before I moved to California in 2008, I was living in a house. I live in Atlanta, and I was living in a house down in Atlanta on the southwest side of town. And it was a low income community, and I had been working in that community for a while, and then I decided to move on. I'm a United Methodist deaconess, and so the work that I do is nonprofit, and we're supposed to live among the people that we work with and all that kind of stuff. So and some of y'all are going to laugh, and I don't want to be offensive, but I was the white girl on the street. And that was literally my name for the first 6 months or so that I lived there. I was the white girl, which is fine. Totally cool with that. But anyway, apparently I was renting my house, and the woman who lived in that house before me, who owned the house before it was bought and started to be a rental property, was an amazing gardener, because my yard, without me doing a darn thing to it, really not doing a darn thing because I have a brown thumb, but it bloomed. The yard bloomed like all year round, it seemed. I mean, there were these amazing rose bushes. There were irises. There were lilies of all kinds. I mean, it was just this amazing, amazing yard. And so she was a great gardener, and she was also just really well known in the neighborhood, and people who had lived there for a long time knew her and really loved her and that kind of thing. So, she just was kind of present, and I'm not saying like I felt her presence or I knew she was there or anything like that, but she was present through her garden, really. And I mean, and every time something new bloomed in the yard, I was like, oh, wow, there she is again. When I was I lived there for 2.5 years. When I was moving out of the house, I was cleaning out the cabinets in the kitchen. And I reached way back into one of these corners inside the cabinet and found this casserole dish, this round casserole dish. And I was like, that's not mine. Where did this come from? And clear as a bell, I heard a woman's voice say, "Oh, that's mine, but you can have it. It's not like I can use it anymore." I'm sorry, what? You know, and it was just, I mean, of course I had this like shocked, like, wait, what? I'm in the house alone. What is happening? But I also was not upset or scared of it or anything because I knew who it was. I knew exactly who it was. It was Miss Maddie, who had lived in that house for most of her life and had also, actually, her mother had lived in that house before her, and she had taken care of her mother until her mother died. And then she lived there until she died. And so, I mean, and that's why the question comes up, is because I swear, even in going to California and living in New Mexico, and I'm that casserole dish, it's precious to me, you know, like, and I don't even really cook that many casseroles or anything, but I love that casserole dish, and it gets taken very good care of because it was Miss Maddie's. But anyway, that's why I asked that question, is because I'd never encountered her before, I don't think. And lo and behold, I lived in her house, you know, and then it was just clear as day that she was like, casserole dish is yours. I don't eat it. So that's why I asked that question.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, cat rubbing on the.
It's because I'm going to tell you what, is it he or she, your cat?
It's a he. This is TC.
He likes the energy. That's what.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Meeting, that's what happens. The cats, the dogs, they show up, and I'm not really like a huge cat person, so I'm not.
I have 2 black cats too. So.
Yeah, they like, they can feel it, so they're like, all right, I'm in. Don't try to shut me out of here. I want in.
They're talking and purring and very happy. So, but anyway, that's my story. Yeah, so I don't know what you make of that, but.
Well, that's an interesting. So I believe that kind of stuff. Especially, I believe that death amplifies, much like money. Death amplifies who you are in life. So if you were funny in life, you're hilarious in death. You know, usually. So I can only imagine that that's kind of what she was like. And I've had some experiences like that. But getting back to what Asaki was saying about can you pick up your guides and those types of things. I think that a lot of people, like you were saying, they always want their family member to be their guide, but you have to remember that your angel team was there with you from the day you were born. Like, that doesn't change. Like, they come at different points, and people need to understand that there's so many different angels than just the same 5 you hear about all the time. It was like, oh, call on Archangel Michael, call on Archangel so-and-so, but there's so many more.
Right.
And I think half the time people don't even use the names because they can't pronounce them. But Doreen Virtue is a great resource for that kind of thing. If you don't know who she is, just look at her site. But she's got all those different ones. And so if you want to call them guides, some people operate with guides. I personally don't. Guides, angel team, spirit team. I've talked about spirit team. But when your people pass, they become your cheerleaders. They're there rooting you on. Like, most definitely. Like, it was so funny. The other day I was sitting incognito in a BLAB, and this lady was giving the readings, and I was sitting there incognito. She goes, "Would the person who's incognito please come in? Someone wants to speak with you." And I ignored it the first time. I was like, nope. I thought she was trying to pull me out. And then I heard go in. And when I heard go in, I was like, okay, fine. I went in. As soon as I went in, my mom starts. And it was just like my mom, because my mom is the type of person to show off, and there was someone particular in the room that my mom obviously had something she wanted to show off about. So my mom was like, and by the way, this and this, and I was like, oh, okay, great. But so I definitely believe that a lot of times when people do those readings and they're doing mediumship readings or spirit from spirit, because like the lady, much like me, not even a medium, but I get people's relatives sometimes. I'm not a medium, but sometimes that spirit energy comes and I'm able to translate it. That's all that is. So just getting back to that point, I think in your story, Stephanie, that's hilarious. that is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, she's pretty funny. I mean, I don't hear her as clearly as I did in that moment. But of course I just find myself, I kind of think, I'll think about, how beautiful a rose bush was in that yard or something. And I'm like, oh, she must be nearby, or or I'll think, or when I use the casserole dish, which doesn't happen very often, but when I do use it, it just makes me think of her. And so I don't know. I get this sense that she's around, and that if I ever really needed her, that she would, turn up.
Well,
and
whenever you think of her, she's around.
Yeah, that's what I figure. Yeah. So I just think it's interesting because it was, even though I grew up in Atlanta, this is a neighborhood that my family's never been in. I didn't have any connection to this neighborhood other than through the work that I was doing and then living in her house. So I just, I think it's kind of interesting that who knew, that there would be that connection there. So anyway, but I wanted to share that story. I'll jump off so somebody else can get on, but I just, that was where the question came
I'm
from.
so tickled by that story. I can't even tell you.
You have to watch the
we're losing Nikki. We're losing Nikki. Nikki's moving in slow motion.
Slow motion.
Stories that are really good about
slow motion for me, evidently. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know you feel like the
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Well, it is time for me to pop off anyways, ladies. I give myself a lot amount of time to be online, and this is my time. So it was such a pleasure, and I appreciate all of you, especially Miss Kai here, because you bring it all together.
Thank you tremendously for joining us and for talking so long. You've been a huge asset. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Don't put me on the camera. I'll keep talking.
That's why it's 11 o'clock and this was supposed to end at 9. I realize how many people are in here. I'm like, I got no business shutting it down. That's why I kind of cleared it.
But I see the numbers dwindling. My energy actually just kind of dropped in the middle of, not in the middle of her story because it was a good story, but I was tickled by it. I noticed my energy dropped. I was like, it's time. It's time to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really nice to meet you, Yvette.
Likewise. Let me follow you now before I forget. I've already been following you, but yes I think I'm
actually going to post my own opt-in in there who somebody pointed out to me. I can't think of the gentleman's name. Oh, it was Matt who pointed out to me like, going to need to get that URL straight so it's exclusive. It's cracking me up. I'm like, because I know what he means, but I was just lazy, didn't get to it. I'm sorry, people. So I am going to add my information on here. I apologize. I have new announcements coming up on. I've reconfigured a couple of things on here. Anywho, if you want to connect with me, folks, I do have an exclusive Facebook group, and the goal is to keep the conversation going even after tonight. Obviously, we can't stand here forever, but I want to engage with you. I want to keep the conversation going, in particular for those of you who have questions, need answers. Yvette Marie is a part of my group, as are some of the other folks in here who are empathic and or psychic already. So feel free to ask questions there, throughout the week in between blabs. I'm more than happy to answer them. And I'm also very happy to see other folks answer those questions from their perspective as well. Because I'm a big believer that there is no exclusive knowledge. Chrome crap happens to me all the time. Nikki, we got to talk. By the way, I was just thinking that I'm like, I need to be consulting with you anyway, because I definitely need your advice on a number of different things. I need you to look at what I'm doing. Social media. It's real easy to advise other people, but when you get into your own stuff, you're like, oh, I don't know anymore. I'm confused. So
same thing as trying to read for yourself.
Yeah, that is my biggest thing. I can't.
No perspective.
I can literally tell you anything about anyone or anything you want me to tell you, but I cannot see or do for myself because I have too much. I'm too in it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's too flesh. It's too ego in it. You want that result.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You want.
That's where that channel writing comes in. That or automatic writing. Yes. That's why I do that, because it just. Do it every time. All right, ladies. I'm going to bed now. Or not going to bed, but I'm jumping off here.
You have a wonderful night. Thank you so much. Namaste. Much love. I very much appreciate you participating.
Glad to see you again.
Thank
you. You too.
All right. So without further ado, to that end, ladies, gentlemen, I think it's 11:10. This is supposed to end at 9 o'clock, y'all. What happens when you get on the chatty cake? And we all are. So
we all long-winded.
I am going to look at closing out. I'm actually going to stop the recording right now. And
I had never heard that. I never had heard that before. I was like, what? A prophet? I still didn't know what it meant. I was like, whatever. You don't know what you're talking about. You're just saying, like, I just kind of kept shrugging it off. And then until now, again, when I met Rebecca and I felt comfortable enough to talk about it, and she started to use the word empath, which I had never heard that word. I had only known about the claircognizance and stuff like that. I didn't know about the word empath. And that's since then I've been exploring it. It's been like a few weeks now and I've been exploring it. So that's why coming upon all this, which is funny because everybody here, like I've met in some way or another, but I did not know, like Yvette, I didn't know you. You know what I'm saying? Partook in any of this. I had no idea, but I had met you several times. So I think it's funny that now that I'm ready for it, everybody has zoomed back in together.
No accidents.
Yeah.
That is a part of the process. That's a natural part of the process. And Drea, feel free to chime in on this because I know you and I have very similar, what sounds like on a timeline, similar journeys. That's exactly how it happens as you are moving into that ability. What is that phrase? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When you are ready to learn this information, when I was ready at the point where I really could accept and learn this information, I have had more mentors, and I'm phenomenal mentors because I train in hypnosis as well. So one of my mentors is long distance. She's in 10 states away from me, but I talk to her, and every time I get off the phone, I learn something really, really valuable. And this is all going to be a part of my healing work. But I recognize as soon as I was ready for this journey, everybody I needed started showing up. And that's the beauty and the spirituality in the journey. And I can imagine that it works the very same way, whether it is Catholicism, Christianity, any religion across the board. When you're ready for something, especially when it's something spiritual, it's just going to converge. It's going to show up in your life. It's the signs and symbols to really show you, like, yeah, okay, you're looking for this thing to fill your heart, because it's heart-led work. It's God's work.
I think once your intention shifts on what you think you're looking for, it's like the synchronicities. You just open up, and all these synchronicities will fall into place. I'm really glad Yvette's here because I've seen one of her blabs, and I was like, blown away. I was like, I had no idea she did this stuff, because I had seen her on other stuff where it was just talking about regular things. And then I saw like one of her special blabs and I didn't know what it was. So I just kind of jumped in there and I was like, oh my gosh, like really cool stuff.
Who is she? Oh my goodness. Yeah,
right. I totally agree. I think that it just depends on the person. Like, because I tell people like, I am in the process of also going through new forms of work to kind of help build myself and build my own skills, because I've picked it up and put it down and picked it up and put it down. Okay. But I always tell people when I do readings, I'm like, okay, for one, I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have anything to offer you in terms of this is what your future looks like. I can only literally read symbolism to what you're experiencing and give you basically a foundation on the clarity of what it is that you're confused about based on what's there.
Which she's good at, because she's done my reading and it's amazing.
And I tell people, like, I'm not this, I don't claim to be more awake and aware than I actually am. What I do is listen to people and listen to my own intuition.
That's a true intuitive.
Like. Right. Like, I feel like that's the only thing I have to offer. And it's kind of the same thing. I feel like like right now, the prices I ask people for are literally like this, because I'm like, I don't feel comfortable. Like, it's helpful to me because I don't stick a time limit on you. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be like 30 minutes. This is what it is. I'm like, listen, if you can help me with this, I don't put a time limit on it. Whatever it's going to take to help you get what you need to get out of it, I'm cool with. Okay. But I do agree. I know psychics who've been doing this for like 60 years, and she's like absolutely worth the amount of money that she's going to offer, because she's not only going to do cards, she's going to do ruins, she's going to do crystals. She does all sorts of different connections.
Absolutely.
Right.
Not to interrupt you though, but Drea, if you're charging, you need to be charging appropriately or don't charge at all.
That's fair.
Just be honest. Like if you're not gonna charge, like you're saying, because you're saying I'm gonna charge, but it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna do the work as long as I need to. But then what's the point of you charging? Because then what the point of it is that you're lowering the value of your time. So if you read somebody and it's a 6-hour reading and you only charge them $20, how much money did you make?
Right. That's true.
You know,
that's very true. Well, and that was something I just took from this conversation with you too. Is I was thinking that I was like, she's absolutely right. Like that, I don't want to take away from what my energy is and the amount of time I'm putting towards it. I feel like the reason why I've done it is just to make it somewhat graspable for people, so they know, like, hey,
for you is that's what you did to make it for you.
Drea, I've got a suggestion for you, and
I can't argue that at all.
My business coach is going to post her link in here, Lakeisha, for her Facebook mastermind. It will be where you're surrounded by a lot of other small business owners, and you'll start to hone that message a little bit. And because a lot of it is really just about us supporting one another. And that's where the confidence grows. You already know, Nikki has talked about you for 2 weeks solid. So I knew before you came in the room, I'm like, oh my God, it's her. I couldn't
between her and Rebecca, I was like, yes.
Who is she? You know, so that tells me already about the level of your work. Sometimes, and you've heard this whole conversation going, but sometimes we kind of struggle with, okay, where do I place it? Yeah. What is it really valued at? And I'm in the mastermind with Lakeisha. I would strongly encourage you to get involved. It's free. So it's just a conversation between all of us, but it will allow you the opportunity. Hey, Citrus Life. It will allow you the opportunity to perhaps hone that message a little bit and create it the way you want it to look.
Yeah,
okay.
Definitely interested.
That's a link right there for the Facebook group. It's Fearless, Fabulous, and Free. It's a mastermind. And again, it's just an opportunity for a lot of, hello, Angela. How lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Just an opportunity for everybody to really bring their skills to the table and learn from one another. And that will allow you the opportunity perhaps to kind of hone your message a little bit and create more structures. Right. That's a growth process. I don't say that with any judgment, honey. I've been where you are, and I'm sure all of us have, you know, where we gave it away. Hell, all my clients thought let me just give you a little snippet of how this magic happens. Last year, January, I stumbled through the lady, as a matter of fact, who reads here for like $500 an hour. No bullshit. She reads $500 an hour, psychic readings.
On here?
No, God, no. Book for a year. One of her clients met me at a fair, had me read for her. She referred me to somebody in North Carolina. Then that woman referred me to somebody in Wisconsin. I grew a client base in Wisconsin. 90% of my clients are in Wisconsin. I live in Atlanta. Okay. So when it's meant to happen, it will happen. And I mean that because I've got to see it in action, and there was nothing I was doing to make that go except doing the work that I was assigned to do. And I mean that sincerely, because I'm listening to you talk, and I'm listening to Nikki talk about your ability. And I'm also listening to you and how you read for people. I'm a big believer, and Yvette, feel free to chime in on this part. This is a divinely guided process. You know what I mean? This is all God's work. I don't mean that to sound over the top, but I've had to get clear on that myself. And the reason why I'm saying that to you is that journey led me to last November. They asked me to come out, and I'm like, what? Like, go to Wisconsin? This conversation went on for a couple of months. I'm like, first of all, what is in Wisconsin? I'm like, I don't know these people. You know, like, what are you talking about? You know, there's a nice boundary that exists when you're on the phone with your clients, and I'm like, go and okay. And then you got to go through all the usual rigmarole. What if they don't like me? What if they don't like my hair? What if I'm too fat? Blah, 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 blah. I went through
all the drama.
I got on the plane. Sometimes it's just about taking the step. I got on the plane, and I'm going to try not to cry when I talk about this, but it was the most magical week I've had in a really long time, because I met my mentor who teaches me now, and she's freaking phenomenal. I met my spirit squad, my people, because it was obvious to me these folks are a part of my world, like they get me, and we talk esoteric, and they teach me and I teach them. And who would have thunk, this place, first of all, don't nobody there look like me. I'm just gonna keep it real. It's Wisconsin. Like, okay. but I was treated like a little princess when I got there. And all of these clients continue to be clients from that point moving forward, with very few exceptions. My point in all of that being, all I had to do was let go and let it ride. And I had dickered about what's the price and this and that. And when I charged what I was, not a single, honey, people were giving me, first of all, I never knew psychics got tips until I arrived in Wisconsin. People were tipping me $20, $30, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I thought you did that with your stylist, with your makeup, with your nails. I didn't know you did that with your psychic until I went there. And what I really learned from all of it was that the value. You have to value what you do, because there were people leaving in tears. There were people who 3 months, 6 months, 9 months later, I'm still hearing from them about what I did. And I probably diminish what I do in calling it psychic. I'm a Reiki master. And my Reiki practice, I wish Andrea was in the room right now, because she's like, you're a healer. You just need to own it. You're just a healer. That's it. And I'm like, all right, calm down. But the bottom line to that is I had to understand the value of what it was I was bringing to people. And as soon as I stopped questioning, I swear to you, Drea, the magic wouldn't shut off. There's a lot less of us than there are other people who are seeking us. That was the other thing I had to get. We're surrounded by other psychics in this community. So we think everybody does what we do. Mm-hmm. So like, oh my God, there's too many of us. I can't charge that much. Yes, you can. Trust me. Yes, you can, because there are.
Every time we're in here, I promise you my energy is like on 5,000.
I have heard several people say that tonight. And I think it's probably, you Yvette, you would know this far better than I. What is the thing about where two or three or more gather? It's scripture, and people are always referring to that when holistic. Because I find anytime I'm in a room with 2 or 3 or more holistic practitioners, it's like you feel it. There's a sense that something else is happening. Yeah,
it's which I energy. Love. I mean, it's always for me personally. I feel whenever I'm around other people who are legitimately gifted. I'm gonna put that out there, legitimately gifted. There is that just natural energy. And even through something like BLAB, you can feel it and feed off of each other. So I always, like, a lot of times I'll sit in a with people who have good energy, good spirit energy. I'll sit in a BLAB even cognito half the time and just get the energy, the pouring in, because when you're in this line of work, you are constantly pouring out. And if you don't have a way to fill back up, then you're going to just end up constantly drained. And so when you come around others who experience it, just that anytime also too, I mean, just getting back, and for me, because I'm a prophet, everything's biblical, 2 or more are gathered, it comes with that. And then angel sends camp, and that energy period just comes, and that lifts you up. So, and you said something earlier about, owning what it is that you are, and those types of, and are you diminishing your work? Most definitely you're diminishing your work by putting that label on it, because like you said, so many people are psychics. And when you are gifted and you're on, there's levels to this. And I say this about a lot of stuff, and anyone who's been in the chat with me long enough knows I talk about levels, because there truly are levels, and the level that I'm at, a level that Angela's at, a level that you're at. There's people I know who are 100% legitimately in this work. Most of y'all charge. I don't charge because of the calling on my life. Different than everybody else's, and that's not a judgment place. But everybody wants to know, you shouldn't this. We talked about that already. But the fact of it is that, like, I'm not sure what you're asking me, Derek. If I'm in myself, yes, prophets tend to be themselves, because I don't like to converge with people too much. So, I come in and I leave. You're right. I am very much so inside my own thoughts, because that's just how I operate. And then somebody asked when my next show is. I do it as the spirit leads. I don't have it planned. Like you guys do this every week. I literally come on when the spirit leads, the show Angela and I did was just completely, God was like, do it. And we did it. And then I haven't done it since. I'll do a prophetic radio show tomorrow, which I will be on cam for, on the link I posted earlier. Okay. But that's it. I mean, I don't do it if someone asks me like, hey, can you hear from me? Most definitely. If God speaks something, I'll speak it. But like I said, I'm not going to pull cards. I don't do all kind of stuff. So, but there's people like that. You ladies, it sounds like Dre, I think you said you pull cards or something like that. I don't know. But everyone does something different. So if there's people for you, like you said, everyone's got an audience, and there's plenty of people to who are going to be called to you. So charge what you're here to charge. Do what you're there to do, and do your part. Exactly. Do what's good for you, what resonates for you, and you're going to find who you're there to serve. That's the thing about it. You're going to find who you are there to serve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's really, you know what, you just said something really, really important, because frankly, a lot of, again, and I said this earlier in the BLAB, when I listen to my guides, in other words, when I listen to the spirit and let that lead me to where I'm supposed to be, and that's including my pricing, that's when I get the right answer. When I step outside, because I'm a Taurian child, so naturally I think I know the answer already if it's about money. So I can get separated from that really quick when it comes to money, but I have to go back. Okay, wait a minute. Like, let me dial it back a second and figure out what the right answer is. And the beauty of why, in particular, Lakeisha serves me so well as a coach is because she allows me that opportunity. So not only is she coaching me in the business, but we confer with that intuitive aspect to make sure that we're going in the right direction. I don't know a lot of coaches who would know how to maneuver around that. Most of them would be going to say, what now? Jigga who? You need me to wait while you talk to what now?
and now, Asaki, do you find that that you're coming across more and more intuitive coaches now? Are you finding that?
Tremendous.
That's what I find that fascinating, that all of these life coaches and business coaches are suddenly intuitive coaches. Yeah. And for me, it's easy to sift it out. You know, cream rises to the top. Right. So it's really easy to see. And so
it's funny you say that, because I've actually had somebody in this community who is a coach, and a good coach by all, you know, for all intents and purposes, but I'm not sure how intuitive they are. And that's been said to me in a number of different places from other people. And I'm like, maybe there's something to that. Maybe they're not that intuitive. I'm not sure. But I think it is because what's her name? What's the reality show with the lady with the Long Island medium? What's her name? Teresa. Because Teresa Caputo. Yeah. And all of these other folks. And they're looking, by the way, I got a call from reality TV. They're looking to create more of these television shows. So because you've got this very mainstream idea, and she's given everybody all these words. I said this last week, and I likened it to when WebMD came out. This must be how doctors feel, where everybody all of a sudden is like, are you a psychic? Are you a healer? Are you intuitive? Are you a medium? Are you an empath? I'm like, oh God, here we go. You know, and they're busy doing the categories, but that's because that's where they got it from. You know, they're learning the words, which is good.
They're looking to put a label on it so quickly.
Exactly. And I'm like, yeah, okay, why don't we just try this out for 10 minutes and you see what it is. What I find a lot of time is once people have the conversation with me about what it is, especially because if they're having a religious conflict with it, they go, oh, well, once I've talked with you, I got it. Okay, I understand completely what it is that you do.
There's 2 seats open, Drea.
Okay. Yeah, hop right in. There's still another seat open. Hi, darling. Hey there.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited about to see your show. How cool is that?
Yeah, it is what it is.
I would love to see it. Now, I'm a practicing Catholic, so I love the prospect of being a prophetess. That would make me very, very happy. And so,
we do that. It was interesting because I had Angela on there, Citrus Life. She and I were on there doing it, and I was doing prophetically, and she was doing, you know, her way, and the two blended so well together. And like for me, like sometimes I'll let people ask questions, but for the most part, God just starts speaking, and I just tap right into it. And I wish we would have recorded that, but we didn't record it. We went for 4 hours that night, and I was so exhausted the next day because I wasn't expecting to go that long. But I don't know. Do you remember how many people that was, Angela? I don't remember. But yeah, I will probably do one at another time at this point. Whenever, like I said, I do just as the spirit leads. I don't do it planned out. But like I said, tomorrow night I'll be on cam doing the same thing, just on a different website. So
yeah, I don't know if I would be comfortable like being a part of the person. I would have to be in the moment and see, because I don't this is nothing that I've ever done consistently. It's usually when someone's desperate and they know I've always thought more of I'm a clairaudience than anything else.
Yeah.
Because I hear from people who have passed on and known things that there's absolutely no complete possible way that I would have ever known it. But when I was a kid, I used to be like, one time I was in the car and I'm like, hey mom, what happens if I put my feet up on the dashboard? She said, you get into an accident. And then we turned the corner and got into an accident. And then one time when I was, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, I was sleeping over at my friend's house, or no, my cousin's house. And something was wrong with her boiler. And I said, wouldn't it be funny if it exploded? And minutes later, it exploded. And so things like that, I would know, and just know things. But it wasn't a lot. And being very Catholic, it was never anything I ever was, and it was very like a secret for the longest time that I would have this communication with the other side. And one of my sisters is like one of those people who likes to go see like the latest devil horror story, and I can't watch that. Right. And so she went to go see the one with the Raggedy Ann doll. And
I don't watch any of that, so I couldn't tell you, but I get it.
I couldn't either. And she's one of the, forget what the heck it was called. I don't know. Do you know, Michael? You putting your hand up in the air.
No, I don't.
Okay. So it's one of those movies. It's got like the haunted dolls, and it's really the devils or demons. And I'm like, no. And, my sister had the book, and so I had this little boy who I was talking to who passed cancer at 3.
Nikki said Annabelle.
Annabelle. Yes. Annabelle. And so, I never watched it. I don't like watching that. It freaks me out too much, and it raises my cortisol, which makes me gain weight. No thanks. So I had this little boy who I was talking to. His name is Joey, and my sister's like, "Oh, be careful." And I'm like, no, because when I'm sitting at Mass and the Eucharist comes up, Joey goes, "He's here! He's here!" So I don't think that that's evil.
Oh my God, I love it. I'm going to segue really quick because we got 2 or 3 people on here who are asking questions specific to, or really commenting and I think asking questions about accurate readings. And I want to address that one because I do find it an intriguing question always. And here's what my experience has been since I have repeat customers, and in particular folks who I've worked with for probably, I'd say 2 to 3 years, max total, in different forms and variations. And here's what I have found. And I actually talked about this earlier, so this must be somebody who's a little bit newer to the group tonight. But I have people all the time who will ask me, well, you told me 6 months ago, blah, blah, blah was going to happen. And how come that didn't happen? And I very politely, but very, very surely say to them, because you changed it. Here's the bottom line. Psychic readings, any intuitive reading is really about what you are currently creating. In other words, I can only see what you're currently manifesting. I can't invent a future that doesn't already exist for you, if that makes sense. Now, I am capable, and I don't know that all psychics are capable of doing this. I'm capable of looking at multiple streams of reality and think the Matrix. I can look at what happens if you do this or what happens if you do that, but that's because it's all still your life and you're still creating it. So what I'm really saying to you is what I see is kind of like being at the craps table. I can see the probability of what is coming based on what you are internally creating in your own world. In other words, and I'll liken this, we'll just boil it right down to something simple, to the lotto. It's always my favorite one to use. If you ask me if you're going to win the lotto and I say to you, yes, and then you never leave the house and bought the ticket, you made a conscious decision. You understand? Right. You can't have, don't get me wrong. I believe in miracles, but seriously, you have to go buy the ticket. So if you didn't leave the house, or if you made a conscious choice to veer right when you should have gone left to whatever store was going to sell you the ticket, and you decided, I don't want to do that. And then you ask me 6 months later, how come I didn't win the lotto? The answer is fairly obvious. I've had the same kind of scenarios with people who were going to separate from their relationships and decided to veer in a different direction. Don't worry, they'll eventually part ways. But a lot of the time people want to avoid either being alone or they want to avoid being together. So people do what their barriers constrict them to do. That doesn't necessarily mean, I agree, it does depend on who you're talking to, but I'm not sure the psychic is very different from empath. I think it's the evolution of empath. I'm not sure that it's different from, but we may be saying the same thing, always about semantics. But my point being in all of it that I can't see what you're not creating. So if I'm seeing it, it is what you're currently creating. If you decide, whether it's on a conscious or a subconscious level, to change your mind and do or be something else, then that is now where the conversation goes. I watch the evolution of people, and I consider myself blessed to be able to watch the evolution and for them to allow me in to watch that evolution happen within them. Everything from, going to school and figuring out what it is they really want to do. A lot of people who come to me now are on the empathic journey, and they think that they may want to either go into business for it, or they're trying to figure out what it really means, or they're trying to figure out how it fits into their life. So that, I find those are most of my clients. They're trying to discern what is this thing I'm feeling and sensing and hearing, and cricks in the night or whatever else, all of those things. They're just trying
but that's because you have a gift of teaching, of educating others. So that's why that's your big draw too, is those people you're supposed to mentor and teach. And right. I don't know if you, like, for me, when I was doing readings, the first thing I would say to people was, understand that everything I'm seeing is right now based off your present and current situation, but you have the power to change anything I'm about to tell you. Nothing is set in stone. You have free will. And people are always kind of like, well, that's your buyout. No, it's not my buyout. It's that's the fact. You have free will. So that's one of the reasons too why I stopped doing readings, because it just didn't work with what I was doing. But when I tell people things, and I think prophecy is a little bit different, because you're speaking things that are edifying to the person only. You're only speaking those things that God is speaking. You're not speaking, well, this and well, that. And that's where it's probably, like, not to put the dividing line in, but for me, just like I said, what I talked about earlier, that there's levels. And so it depends on where your source is coming from. So what Matthew was saying a little bit more is about, there's different people and you have to know what their skill set is. Very much so. I definitely agree with that. I think that the term psychic is too broad of a use for people. Mm-hmm. And so people have been, I personally was burnt from a psychic. Before I knew my full giftings, this lady was freaking having me try to do all kinds of incantations on myself and all kinds of crazy, and everything was you need to make a spiritual sacrifice of, and she needs to build me an altar for $2,300 because that was the number she prayed on. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I was praying on your behalf, and this was the number that came. And I said, well, why isn't it $23? 23 cents, maybe $2,300. Where'd that come from? But everything, and I had to know, I had to go back to my mentor. My mentor was like, first of all, I wish that you lived here so that you could go to church with me so I could really teach you, because she knew I was a prophet before I ever knew that. I was just like, all right, well, whatever, I didn't know stuff. And so I was going to her. She's trying to teach me things. And she was like, what I need for you to do is to always do things in the name of Christ Jesus. That's your calling. That's what you have to do. That's your way of doing it. So she's like, I always want you to start everything with the Lord's Prayer. Always do this. So as I learned things, I left. Laura Lee was my mentor, and I left her. And then I was like so in my feelings about something, because, people as a whole have itchy ears. I was in my feelings about a relationship. The psychic opened up across the street, and I went in there. She had a $25 special. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go in there. Don't you know that $25 turned into $125 for what she had to tell me? And everything she told me was negative. And the one thing Laura Lee told me was like, you never speak negative to people. You can give warning, but you don't speak negative. Let me tell you. And so everything she spoke was negative. And I was just, and that didn't sit in my spirit. And then this is how I know there's a God. So the second day she has me come back, and she says, you came back? Because I was stupid. Like I said, I was in my feelings. I get it. I had too much money to spend. I had too much money to spend, and I was in my feelings. Right. And she gives me this candle, and she says, I want you to go, and I want you to take a bath in the hottest water you can stand, and light this candle exactly 10 o'clock. I'll be praying on your behalf. Now, she gave me this pillar candle, but only had like this much candle left in it. The pillar was like this tall. And I'm like, it didn't sit in my spirit well, because no matter what, as a child even, I don't light colored candles. I never have, never will. I only light white candles. And so she gave me this red candle, and I was like, all right. So I pray over the candle, and I was like, you know what, God? I said, God, I don't know if you're real, if you're not real, but if this isn't of you, and I'm not born again yet, I don't know God at this point. I'm so green. I'm like, I'm just gonna step out. If this isn't of you, don't let this candle light. I'm lighting it. Nothing hits. I put alcohol on the wick. Nothing hits. Exactly. I'm like, Okay, I drained that bathtub out. I was like, something ain't right here. I go to work the next day, and this young lady who's my mom's assistant, I don't know her from anybody. She goes, Yvette, I need to speak with you. And I said, okay. And she's like, no, I need to speak to you right now. Like, she's like, it's urgent, like shaking me, like, I need to speak with you right now. And so she pulls me aside. She goes, do you know what a prophet is? And I said, no. And she's like, well, you'll come to know that. But my husband is a prophet. And at 10 o'clock last night, he went into tongues praying for you. He's never met you. He's never known you. But the devil's trying to come for you. And this, she starts telling about the lady evil, all this stuff. I was like, oh my,
I'm going to stop you real quick. I'm so glad you said that. And here's the thing. And I try not to categorize everything by evil and good, but I understand what you're saying. Here's what I would add to what you just said. Because when you said it, I said, it's important to knowing how to get a reading. And there's a science to that. You said everything she said to you was negative. First of all, I went to John of God recently, and everybody was talking about personal life. Yeah, it was a phenomenal experience. I'll talk about it in a bit. Everybody was talking about his personal life, and I thought to myself, you have to remember, and he is channeling the most high of energy, and I do mean the most high of energy. However, he is still a man.
Right.
He still receives information through his own very human filters. This is a human process for all of us. And the reason I say that, Yvette, is because you're telling me about this woman where everything and I had a psychic here who I've trusted. She's read for me for a decade. And she had like 3 people really close to her die in succession over a year. And all her readings were like, all of a sudden, nothing was possible. And I'm like, wait, I don't think this is for me, but I knew I was able to discern it because I knew what her readings looked like before that. So for me, that's when I came to understand a very important piece of this energy work. When you are not in a good space, it is very hard for you to find the good answers for other individuals you are reading for. This is critical. And that may be why for some of these folks who have had what you're calling inaccurate readings or readings that either didn't resonate with you for whatever reason, honey, your gut sense is always going to tell you if this ain't right for you, leave it where you found it. And I would say the same thing if I tell people that as clients, if this is not right for you, leave it where you found it. You sat down in front of somebody who was clearly in the sludge. They were in a much lower vibrating energy, and they're telling you information based on where they're vibrating, not where you're vibrating. Thank goodness, thank God, you have the discernment and somebody else praying on your behalf. This is where I think the collective, and it's also where we individually can allow in lower vibrating energies. When you're in that nasty space, that's what can happen. But for practitioners, it is so critical. And I see there is another medium in the room, Mike Loop. Welcome, sir. Welcome. It is so important for all of us as practitioners to check ourselves and make sure at a minimum that we are finding that most high energy before we do the work for our clients. I know for me, that's a solid practice. I don't ever divert from that, but I'm just listening to you talk, thinking as soon as you said it, I'm thinking, ooh, she was in an ugly place. She was in a horrible place.
She was just doing something else herself. Totally. Like she ended up getting shut down because everybody had the same experience and she was the charlatan. So that's what I'm saying. There's people like that who give a bad name to it. And also too, people talk about, I've never had a good reading. Well, a lot of people have what I call psychic amnesia. I think a lot of people call it that. Like nothing resonates with you at the time you're going. They don't know what they're talking about, but you're not omnipresent enough to go 6 months later when it happens to go, oh.
That's why I record. That is why I now record. I can't tell you how many, including my clients in Wisconsin. Some of them are friends. And I talk to them and they'll say to me, well, I'm still, we're going around in circles on this and I just don't know. And I'm like, I literally say to them, I'm like, we talked about this 6 months ago, right? But up until recently, all I had to, go back to that on was their journaling of what I said, because I hadn't done a real hard process on recording. Now I actually record, especially all my phone conversations. I can record them all. So I record them for people and I send them to them, play it back. Same thing happened to me. When I went to Wisconsin, I came back, I sat with someone who I trust to read for me. I got on a plane 4 months later, no lie. The reading was in December. I listened to this on a plane to Wisconsin in April, cracking up the whole way. I'm sure everybody thought I was on something because I'm literally laughing out loud as I'm listening to this recording because everything she said was on point. I couldn't see it at the time because she was talking in December and none of it had manifested yet. But she was so on the money with the information that she was giving me. It just hadn't had the chance to actually come to fruition. And I think for some people, a lot of the time, when you give them information, in particular when the information is phenomenally good, sometimes you've heard people talk about fear of success 1,000 times over. Sometimes people go, oh, okay. I do it too. And Lakeisha and I could probably talk this topic until it is blue in the face because she and I both went through this week and had similar conversations. We all struggle with our fear points. So for any one of us who are struggling with our fear point, when somebody literally looks you in the eye and says, you're going to be a millionaire, you might sit on Oprah's stage, you know, things like this. You're like,
are you talking to me? Are you sure?
Heart attack. Like, I'm not ready. So people, you do everything you can to keep it at bay. Wait, hang on. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. If I had let that fear drive the bus when it came to Wisconsin, I wouldn't have that client base. I wouldn't have these phenomenal friends that I have there. More importantly, I wouldn't have been on the plane. And I came home. I'll never forget this. The flight home, I'm literally fighting tears because I realized, you know, I was there, I think 8-9 days. The first time I went, and and then they invited me back every other month, and I participated in all these different courses that A, have helped me personally develop, but B, have continued to grow my business. And I'm just, the first flight, I'm on the way home, and I'm like, okay, don't cry, because you know you've been blessed. You know God answered you. You know, you struggled with, I worked in corporate America for 15, 20 years. Who in the hell am I supposed to be walking around telling everybody I'm a psychic? Like, really? I don't think so. This was the confirmation. It was the universe saying to me very, very loudly, yes, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not sure if I'm going to how to go back to corporate America now. Anywho.
Misaki?
Yes, ma'am.
I've got one big thing that I'm going to let Nikki on because I'm going to go.
Okay.
I went to see a psychic one time. I was in a weak spot. If financially we weren't doing so good, I freaked out. I went to go see her. She told me that I was going to cheat on my husband in 25 years.
Wow.
And I was like, no, that's not going to happen because I'm not going to let it happen. And I'm going to make sure I take every precaution in my life to safeguard my marriage. And I thought to myself, okay, she can say that, but there's no way that she can make it happen.
Right.
Right. And that's sometimes it's just for that. So again, that's not a prediction you wanted to come to fruition. So what you did is you took that information, you took control of it. That is the beauty of being able to have somebody intuitive in front of you, give you this information. And what I would add to that is, again, for people who are talking about accuracy and inaccuracy, just write it down. Just write it down. I promise you. I started journaling myself, I want to say at the beginning of the year. When I say, because reading for other people, I know, because I know who I'm talking to. Right. I know it's absolutely accurate. I don't question that part. When you read for yourself,
come on now.
It's a little difficult. You start questioning things. So for me, I started this journaling process through my mentor's leadership. I started this, and I essentially channel write. When I do that and look back, especially at the writing that started in February, I have held this book up and shown clients, I'm like, look, your name is literally in here. I was supposed to talk to you this month. It's really specific, and it is clearly divinely guided, and everything that I'm writing has come to fruition, or the pieces and parcels are falling into place for fruition. It's unbelievable to me. My point being, for those of you who have had readings and you go, I don't know if that resonates with me, just write it down. Write it down and look back later on and go, was that real? Was that not real? You took that opportunity, Alicia, and you flipped it on its head. I've done the same thing. Somebody told me my house was going to burn down. I'll call the electrician. I'm like, well, let's take a look. I'm like, I would prefer not be in that scenario. So let's see if we can't avoid it. You know, like,
and also you have to glean what you can glean from it, because not everybody hears clearly. That's the thing about intuitives as a whole. They're only as good as they hear. And some people need hearing aids, let's just be honest.
Well,
or they want to add to it, or they want to add extra to it instead of just passing the message along. And so a lot of people, when they tell me I haven't had a good reading, it's because they misinterpret something, they've read something, or they added something to it. That's what I say. I always pray, all of you, none of me, because I don't want to add nothing to it. It doesn't need to be anything to it, and just whatever spirit wants to speak, you speak it. But I sit on here remember when we had the invasion of all the BLAB psychics? Like, that was like crazy to me, you know? Yes. And I just sit and watch, and I'm like, are they serious right now? Like, that's not okay, you know? And there was like literally like there were like BLAB after BLAB after BLAB after BLAB after BLAB psychic, and it's like, that's not even right. Like, I don't care what part of spirit, whether higher power, God, universe, ain't none of that right. It doesn't matter, because they were trying to outdo each other. That's the crazy part.
That's ego. That's
when ego comes into
play. The lady who was the reader, she was the psychic or whatever, she was in poor health. She smoked. She wanted to smoke during the reading. And I said, I cannot sit here. And I cannot sit here if you smoke. You have to put it out.
So anyway.
And she was very obese. And she was not taking care of herself. So that could add to her negative, her negativity. She wasn't completely negative.
Somebody said something about eating healthy and, how that skews all of
the connection.
Sure.
And that's the thing is like she wasn't, apparently she was born with a veil over her face. Like, she was, that whole thing. She's always right, never wrong. But I love that you guys spoke to that, how you said that, you can say something that your client's going to go through, but they can like not buy the lottery ticket and that's the thing is that, I know.
And the other thing, and I think I see, if I'm reading, you guys are typing fast all of a sudden. The other thing, and I know Coach Michelle I've watched her read, so I know that she is intuitive, and I think she's auditory, because when I watch her, I'm like, oh yeah, oh, okay. I was more fascinated at being in their BLAB and just watching her do her thing, because it's always fun for me, just observing somebody else who's kind of connected to the spirit. And I'm observing what she's writing and what psychic medium ML is writing, and I'm thinking that really they're both saying something very similar, in that the way I was trained to read for people is always to tell the truth. Don't get me wrong, some people don't like what I have to say. I appreciate that for what it is. You're always trying to give them the information from a spiritual standpoint, but at the same time, truth is truth. And if you're really trying to get people, yes, honey, we could do a 5-hour show on ethics alone. I am wholeheartedly with you on that one, because I think it's really important for us to stand in I believe this is God's word. So if I'm literally working for God, how dare I get information and tell you something other than what they are giving me? They're giving it to me for a reason. Most of my clients, the longest I've known a client, maybe 3.5 years. So and it's all about the communication and how it's worded. But who would I be to decide for them whether they should or should not hear a certain piece of information? If they ask me the question and I get an answer, they get it. And I tell people, you'll hear me say this a lot if you're in a reading with me, I do not delete, distort, or filter information. It's impossible not to filter information, because we're all human beings. However, whatever I hear, I don't take that and reword it.
Right, the wording is everything, though.
Right, it is, but I tell them how I hear it first, and then I wait. And this, I'm going to remind you all that most of this is on the phone for me, so I can't see their faces. Most of my clients tell me that my readings are actually better on the phone. You know why? Because I'm not filtering for them. I am not reacting to their facial expressions. I'm not worried about whether or not they like it or whether it hurt their feelings. It's real. And sometimes grandma has shown up. I'm not trying to tell you, I'm not trying to supersede what your grandmama said, because grandma's here. She's talking, and she definitely, she's sitting up there with look now, some things you're just not supposed to defy. And as far as I'm concerned, if she's the one who stepped into the room, she is your guide. She is watching you. This is somebody who gave birth to your mother, who gave birth to you. I'm going to show her some respect. Okay, tell me what you got to say. I'm going to give you that information. Don't get me wrong. Some people are like, wait, I don't like that. What do you mean? And that's usually when people say, I don't understand, or what do you mean, or that doesn't make sense to me. It's because it's something they don't necessarily want to hear. That's why it doesn't resonate. I get that. I do the same thing. I get psychic read. I'm surrounded by psychics. I do it all the time. However, if you write it down the way I said it the first time,
And then I'll filter it through and give it to you the way you need to hear it in order to absorb the information. It's still critical that you take the information with you, just let it marinate. Later on, everything is not for that moment. Sometimes it's going to make sense 6 months later. Sometimes it's going to make sense a year later. You'll go, oh my goodness, I had a psychic tell me something at 19 that I didn't fully understand until I was about 39. And God, if I could find that woman, I am telling you right now, I would love to call her and say, you don't believe this one. Because she told me I would do this work. And at the time, I mean, I'm 19, I'm in college. I'm looking at her like,
now, how did she read you? How did she come up with that?
Say it again.
How did she read you or come to that? Did she do charts? Did she just give it to you in a wording, or how did she do it?
If I remember correctly, she was auditory. She just read directly from spirit, which I do as well. And based on what I have observed in Coach Michelle, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong, she reads the same way. You know, I haven't seen her use any tools. I don't know. But I guess what I was watching was this very deliberate connection as she was answering questions on her BLAB. And I'm going, oh, okay. All right. I get that. I know what she's doing. Okay. I see that. I see the moment where she's connecting. Okay. So,
I had a guy tell me that I was a healer, and I just was like, and I was like maybe 20, and I was like, what do you mean I'm a healer? I didn't get it at all. All right, I'm going to let Nikki come in. So I'll talk to you guys later.
You are a healer, though, just so you know that.
And the word is a little scary, especially because it has a lot of connotations in church and other places. And it also has legal connotations depending on your state. So
I believe I'm a healer through my singing at church, especially my funeral singing.
Sure, I totally.
Well, there's a comfort, but also all this in here, when I look at you, is all bright and meaning. Like, so not only are you feeding off of the energy right now, and it's like you're like, oh, like I'm in my people, but also too, as you bring your hands up, your hands are bright. Are your hands getting warm when you pray for people? Do you get warmth in your hand? Does the heat come? Because what happens when you start doing that, and as you start embracing it, the heat, the power will come. And so for me, when I see the power, I see where people's source is. And unfortunately, not everyone's source is the same.
Yep.
I see the colors. So like your color is all bright white, which is the white shining light of Jesus Christ. Okay. Yay. So yours is coming from a very different place. And so when you start getting into healing, the power will come, the heat will come in your hands. And when you start to lay hands on people, the faith action will come, and you'll start to feel it, and you'll know. You won't ever have to wonder. Like the first time I laid hands on somebody, I was like, "What am I doing? Why am I touching this person?" And it wasn't me. It was the spirit was just like, "Go," and the spirit went. And so when it happens, you'll know. But you just have to embrace, and also too, with the Catholic background, you already know you believe some things differently than.
I am like the Catholic outside the gate. I am.
Okay, so I was saying you already know. I don't want to put this on blast, but I was just saying you already know that.
I embrace my gift. I'm a singer. I sing funerals, weddings, and masses. So I know people have told me when you sing, you glow. And like, I know that I affect people, and it's not me, because I make sure I like take the ego off. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. And I just sing, and I can't tell you how many times I'm ministered to when I sing. And it's not because I'm like so amazing, like I'm the Celine Dion of Catholic Church. Nothing like
You're
that.
willing
I love that you just said that. Celine Dion of Catholic Church. That is absolutely priceless.
I'm not trying to say that. I take myself out of it, and when I allow my energy and my source to touch their source, it just, oh my gosh, it's like electricity. It's incredible, and it's only because of the Holy Spirit, because of God, because I'm like the conduit of His electricity. When my heart opens, and it's not because of my conscious self, it's my subconscious self that's connected to the Lord. And that's what I was telling before. Through my studies with Pinnell, with Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World, those are physical proof. I actually do, by the way, I'm going to have to show it one day, have physical proof of Joey, the little boy, because I was babysitting his sister, and he zoomed by on film because she had one of those little cam things for the baby's room. And so the baby rustled, and and this little blip went, and then again, blip, and this time I had the camera. I'm like, Joey James Johnson, say hello to the camera. And so I caught it on video. It's on YouTube. And I took it, I froze it, I turned it, and what do you know?
Link us to the YouTube. Oh my God.
Little boy waving his hand, standing up like this. And you could see it, and you can see he had a big forehead. And I'll show you the picture of Joey alive, Joey passed on, and Joey on the video. I have proof.
Wow.
I have physical proof.
Okay.
It's incredible, and there's no denying
I want to see that. I want to share it publicly. If you can,
I will.
DM it to me.
I'm gonna get.
I want to see that.
Yeah, no problem. If you find the link, put it in there. I'm going to, since we're in between people, and I know somebody else is jumping back. Is Nikki jumping back in? I think Nikki's jumping back in. Nikki's jumping back in.
Hi, Michael.
Hi, how are you?
Connection info, folks. So if you want to connect with me, I have an exclusive Facebook group for my blabbers. Yvette, you're in the group, right? Okay, I just told Lakeisha that, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, she's busy singing your praise." She's like, "She's phenomenal." I was like, I knew that already." And like, she's in the Facebook group, so that's good.
I still have a lot of time to be on social media anymore, unfortunately. So, but I see your posts come up. I actually have them notified, my notifications, and I was like, "Oh yeah, she's having a blab. Let me go on."
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I am so glad to hear that. Yes, folks, please connect with me. I love to continue the conversation because I just like this engagement. And I love that we have so many folks in here who are in fact readers, because that's telling me the energy brought you here. So that tells me that's a positive thing.
What's more funny is that I've met, it seems like everyone here in such a different instance sometime on BLAB. Every single one of the people who are empathic and healers and readers and everything. Like, I've met everyone, it seems. It's just weird. Like, it's like everybody just kind of found each other.
Right.
Well, I think too, Nikki, I don't think it's necessarily something that we all run around going, I'm a this and I'm a that, you know, like some people did come on here going, you know what, I'm a psychic, I'm an intuitive, it is what it is. There's so many levels to me that I'm just like, if I put like everything I did, like I actually am getting a website that just changes all the different things I am, instead of just a website for this business, a website for that business that we can go to, that is, and this, and that, it is what it is, you know, but, and people connect with me all in one spot, because I think anytime you have to tell people who you are, you're not. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, you don't see none of that in my profile. I don't talk about it. I've never
right. So that's why, like, my profile is like, I bake cakes and sip tea. I can tell you I do a whole lot more, but I bake cakes and sip tea.
I'm gonna say something about that, and I used to say this as a joke to people, but it's not really a joke. There's a process to coming out as a psychic. And I literally call it coming out.
It is.
You start off with, I had all, first of all, that's how I got into the whole social media, digital marketing thing, because I wanted to work for the psychics, but I wasn't going to be one myself. So I learned all of that through working for other people, and that's how I got really good at it. So now I'm just claiming both of them, because you need to know that's been an internal fight for me forever, until Lakeisha set me straight on it. But it was a huge part of the process. It's admitting it, and then it's finding the word to describe it, and then it's like, do I want to be a psychic or an intuitive? And it's the language and the semantics, and what are people going to react to? And I'm in the Bible Belt, y'all. I used to be in upstate New York. I'm in the Bible Belt. So judgment and discernment and all this other stuff. And it's a lot. And there is a certain safety in our own community in being able to communicate with one another. Just so you kind of remember, oh, right, that was what that was like. I forgot. And B, just to be able to connect with other folks who speak your language. You can't necessarily go to your 9 to 5 and have a full-on conversation about being an empath. It's going to get strange. You might get called in HR. What the hell?
I've been called in HR.
Like, what? Like, that's crazy. Like, Ms. Brown, can we discuss the conversations you're having on the sales floor? You're making people a little uncomfortable. That's the hell I am. So it's just...
No, I had to be in a position where I was meeting people constantly, you know, and when you are working empathically, you get people's energies. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't want to touch people. They wanted me to shake hands. I was like, no. I'm not, because I didn't realize, I didn't know what it was at the time. It was before I started working for myself. But I was so disgusted every day. I would walk out like, oh, you know, from being on the phone and having to interact with people and just touching people. I didn't understand what it was. But then I just got to the point where I would feel gross, and when people touched me, I would feel gross. And what it was the environment, and I didn't know how to shield myself or guard myself from that or be prepared. So I got called into HR like, look, you're not doing your job. You need to, like, why are you being ugly with the customers? Like, because they're ugly to me.
Yeah. The only place I still can't get that handle on. I still can't get a handle. I can't get a handle on hospitals. That's the only one I can't. I will not. I can't.
It's hard.
I can be in a public place and do it, but I just, the hospitals, you already know, like, I feel like I'm going to faint. I can't even, like, at all. It's too much. I can't.
I'm still,
I get that.
Big holiday shopping. I don't give Christmas gifts. I give money or things I can order online because I won't do it.
That's the one I'm realizing. And I had to get honest with myself about that when I don't like going to the mall.
Right. Oh, I go when I know nobody else is there. That's when I go. I go like a Monday afternoon or a Tuesday. But
yes, and I go in the daytime when there's nobody. Friday, Saturday, and oh my goodness. First of all, there's too many children in the mall, and they're very energetic anyway. So that's a lot to be coming at you. You know, the little hot, sweaty kids, and they're running around. It's like, oh my God. Okay, make it stop. Slow it down. Yeah, that's a tougher one for me.
I can do the mall for some reason. The mall doesn't really. I mean, I get it, but I don't. It's not like a negative thing. It's just a lot of energy.
Oh, you're not as turned on yet, though, too, exactly. Nikki. Once you get fully turned on, you be like, I can't stand none of these places.
We were talking about last week. It was like the hospital is the only place that really gets me. But I always hear everybody saying crowded places in general will get you, and I'm just like, I ain't looking forward to that at all. Because if I start to feel like if it's as strong as hospitals, I won't be able to go anywhere. I live in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
Can I tell you? I'm from upstate New York. Now, I have had probably 10 friends in my 20s ask me to move to the boroughs. Never happened. And I knew
I live in the boroughs. Yeah, I live in Brooklyn. So it's like
I have like a 5-day expiration date. After that, I start to feel claustrophobic in New York proper, in Brooklyn or the Bronx. I can't do it for long periods of time because I start to feel closed in. And I finally figured out what that was. I'm like, oh, that's why you never moved to New York City. See, all that time I thought I was an ex-boyfriend. No, not at all. See, I'm so glad I figured that. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
There was somebody who asked a question.
You love hospitals? Ooh, I can't do hospitals. It's too many different energies, I think.
Yeah, the thing about hospitals for me is it depends on the floor. Because, you know, like baby, I love the nursery floor because everyone's so excited.
That doesn't bother me.
Great.
Yeah.
You know, the cancer ward, the kids, I actually like going to the kids ward even though they're sick. Because their energy is still good and they're so easy to inspire. They're so easy to fill up. But when you get into like the hospice floors and all that, I can't do all that.
Because usually when I'm going because I've been in I went to the hospital when my cousin was having her baby because I was with her. I had to when it happened. And I didn't get that. But like, now, you know, saying it like I understand what you're saying because usually when I'm going to visit like a sick relative and it's them and then they have also like a roommate and then their family's there and then that's a lot of energy. It just all takes from me. Or even going into like an older folks home is a little bit rough. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So I get what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense. But yeah, in the baby ward, like where the babies are, it's amazing. But when I first step in, it's a life.
And also, too, when the babies come, you know, all of the angels come. And so you get all the angelic presence and the family members and all. It's just like, everyone's like, yay! Like, look what we brought you.
Exactly. And it's a magical feeling. It's like, oh my goodness, all this new life. And you got to figure the way they are, all these babies connected to the force. That's gonna be the magic. That's not unlike, and I don't mean that to be extra ego here, but that's not unlike what's being created in this room, especially because there are so many people in this room, even who aren't on this panel, who are either empaths or they're psychics, and they do this professionally. So there's a lot of energy.
I literally feel like a kid inside, literally.
I knew there was because I could tell by who was entering, and
I'm shaking my leg. It's like I need to remove some energy. I'm shaking my leg.
Yep, you can feel it. You can sense it when you enter these kind of spaces. It's like, okay, something's happening here. Can't put your finger on what it is, but you know something is happening.
It was supposed to happen. I was on Skype with Dre and I got the notification. I was like, oh, we gotta go, girl. Because she's still been watching the last week one, and like she's been like literally watching it like a little chapter by, because it's long. So she's been watching it little by little, and she's like, I gotta get in this. I didn't know you were gonna do another one, and when we saw it, I was like, oh. She didn't get the notification because she's not following you. But I was like, we gotta go.
You know what? I was gonna actually cut off the recording on this one, but I opted not to for one simple reason. People will be talking about the second half of this show and they won't be able to find it. And you can always fast forward through it. So I'm like, okay, well, let me not turn the recorder off. Let's just...
You put annotations on it now too, can't you?
Yes, you.
So people could.
I love the changes they've made with BLAB so far too. I'm just feeling all of it. I know they're having a town hall sometime soon again to kind of inform what they're doing next. I just love to hear the changes they're making. It's so exciting. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because it'll just skip it. It'll just skip forward to that. It'll be one video, but it'll just move from one to the other.
Okay.
If someone doesn't want to be on camera, but when it's off.
Yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for that. And I know now it can be, so I will definitely load it up to my YouTube channel so that people can find it in different locations. But, and I would actually love to be able to take snippets out of this.
You can now. That's so awesome.
You should be able to, because I know when you get the link, they give you an MP4. I know that's always been the case. And you can just like cut it down yourself.
Okay. I haven't played with any of it yet, but
it'll be in your email. They'll send you an email.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Thank you. I guess I was paying no attention to all those extra facts.
You can do your whole site for like a month on here now. Like, right? When I said this little nugget.
No, this is very good information. Well, she's our social media media marketing guru. Yes, indeed.
That's why I'm always exploring the little parts of everything, because I have to for my clients, you know?
Yeah, right. Exactly. You got to play around with it. That's absolutely true.
I put the video in there.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was waiting to have a break to watch. I started to watch it and someone started talking. So
it's at 14 seconds, but I have two pictures. How do I pop them on here?
Just put the link.
Are they linked?
I don't know. I mean, it's in my Facebook page.
Then just right click and click copy URL and it'll come up, because Facebook works. Copy image URL.
So that is the picture of him as alive. And then I'll show you the picture of him. This is the streak.
We can't see it because your page is private, I think.
It's not. It's so weird. All right. So I don't have it in there. Sugar molasses. I can actually turn here. You know what I'll do?
You can edit it and to make it public for a second and then put it back. Like there's a little, see little two people change it to the globe.
Let me show you one thing. I'm gonna see if I could turn the camera around and show you. Hold on. All right, let's see. So this, can you see Joey?
No, bring it down a little bit. Bring it down a little bit.
Nope.
Down.
No, bring the camera up.
No. Bring the camera up. Okay. A little bit more. Okay.
Okay, so that's Joey. I see his like big forehead here.
Yes.
This is him in the streak, waving hello. Do you see his forehead here? His hand waving, his body.
Back up a little bit on the back up.
I was going to say, put the camera up a little, I think.
Tilt it a little.
Oh.
You see him waving?
I can't, it's hard to
pull back a little bit.
I can't. The cord is like, let's see if I can.
Because I saw the video. I definitely see the baby moves and I see something go by. I definitely see it, but I don't see.
See this forehead?
Tilt your phone, tilt it a little downward like that. And
I see what you're saying.
Waving. I know I can do it on my phone. Hold on, let me do it.
No, it's right now. Your name's over it, but I see his little hand sticking out
right here.
Mm-hmm. Well, your name is over. You need to bring it down a little bit for us.
No, up.
Down.
Other direction.
Up. There we go.
There you go. Okay, I see it.
Now pull it to the side a little bit.
Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
There it is, right there. I see him all right there.
Wow.
See his face, it's his head, his forehead.
Yes.
And
yes.
And if you look over here, hold on. See him here?
Wow.
That's crazy.
Isn't that
I can see his like full on face.
Yeah, like fully.
It almost looks like it's illuminated. I mean,
well, he's in, he's in the other world. He's on the other side. So if you look here, you'll see the video. It pops up right on the corner.
You need to do a video of all of that together, because your video by itself, you're kind of like, but if you did the video and then showed the freeze frame and showed the picture of him and showed the freeze frame and circled it, people will totally see it.
Right? Yeah, you could see it. It's like on, I think it's on like 14 seconds. It whizzes by.
You're saying that one part about it, like how do you know what's really you and what's that's perfect. I never even thought about that. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
so if you walk into a supermarket or into a university or a show of some sort, a rock concert, and you've got hundreds of energies coming at you at once, how do you know what's yours and what's not? Seriously, do you know your own energy that well that you can, go, oh, okay, I don't have a problem with that. That can go over there. And I don't have a problem with that. So that can go over there. And I'm not feeling nasty today. So that can go over there.
If you want to make me co-host, because I'm very good at like manning the whole thing. So I can get rid of them because I'm used to hosting. So I'm quick with it. As soon as I see it, I'm like, boop.
Yep. Okay. All right, done. Yeah,
okay.
I'm looking like I'm like, wow. I don't normally experience this. I'm like, dang.
Like Drea, was it you that said it, Alyssa? Oh no, Drea said it. We are definitely making energetic waves on here. If we weren't making big moves, there wouldn't be so much opposition.
Clearly, because I have never, well, it's a topic. Okay, I get it. Because
but it's even stronger because there are more stronger. We got even stronger here now because last week we were good, but it's even stronger now because of the level that the people are that are coming on. Mm-hmm. So it's boom.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you're right. That's what happens when you're doing this work and you're doing anything in this. Hello, Johnny. Hi, Johnny. How are you? That's exactly what happens. And I'm sure, I'll be honest, for me, it's because I came in the room. Is it Derek?
Is it really Derek?
Derek, that sounds like you're taking things very personally. He's so funny.
No, Derek.
With all things energetic work. And for me, I've had some really positive experiences, and I'm in the South, folks. So I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm originally from upstate New York. So I have lived in this planet where everybody's very liberal and, it's like, whatever. And then I moved here and people are like, what is that? And I'm like, oh, okay. There was a little bit of an adjustment curve for me, but honestly, overall, I get a pretty good reception. You'd be amazed who some of my clients are. Can I make more than one person?
Can I make a suggestion for your title?
No. Okay. You can make more than one person the host. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Very good.
Maybe you should change. Personally, the word psychic doesn't feel well with me.
Yes.
Intuitive.
Yeah, intuitive.
I've started using that on it because I use intuitive coach because really my background is social work. A lot of what I do is coaching, regardless of what the topic is. When you're intuitive, that's what people are really coming to you for.
When they see psychic, they spin out.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. And that's a thing. I think it's the word. And I say this I said this last week. I say this all the time. The semantics of it all, the wording, the verbiage of everything is what really gets people all up in arms. It's no different from religions. They all got different books.
Oh, you could say Confessions of a Prophet.
Right. And it's like, if everybody just calmed down and figured out what the bottom line was to these religions, you'd all oh my God, this is all the same crap.
Whatever you call it. Psychic, empath,
yep, prophet, exactly. It's all about the verbiage.
Prophet, you know what I'm saying? All these words basically hone in on the same thing. So the word is maybe makes people uncomfortable because of television and all the fake psychics and stuff, whether you pay to call. But if you notice, they all have an asterisk and say for entertainment only.
Yeah.
They think
because we know the difference by law.
Right.
Exactly.
And something, and I, who is that? Marie. I think it's Marie who just brought something up, because I have noticed this. There are a lot more people on.
No, you're right.
There are a lot more people on BLAB who are doing like the free reading thing, whatever. Perhaps that is some of what's shifting that around. Yeah, I know, right? Oh my God, you just hit it off the park.
No, that's not what I was saying, Marie, at all. I was talking about psychics on television ruining, like those little, like, remember Miss Cleo? That's what I was talking about. I was
right. That's a running joke in my family. Yeah. That's a running joke in my, like, regularly at Thanksgiving, I get called Miss Cleo, like, for real.
Me
that's,
too.
like, oh, make sure your taxes. I'm like, really, people, seriously. I'm more regulated now. Calm down, everyone. But my point being, that's exactly what happens. And everybody's really just making jokes, because the very same people ask me psychic questions. I'm like, yeah. I liken psychics to lawyers in many ways. Everybody needs one. Nobody will admit it. And like everybody at some point in their life.
Do they? Because they just tell you, a psychic reading is only as good as the moment that it's taken, because of the choices and the free will we make. So for me, although I offer an intuitive reading, I don't really like doing them, because I don't think it gives people the real tools, what they need to move forward in their life. All it does is give them a Band-Aid.
I totally agree with you, Rebecca. However, most people are not where you are. And that was the thing that I had to figure out. And it took me a while to understand that, because I wanted to live on the planet where I'm like, yeah, but you don't, before you can even get to that part of the conversation, you have to do the reading and help people understand. And I find with my clients that I've had for 3-6 months or longer, we do one reading, we do another reading, and they'll ask me. Some stuff will happen, some stuff won't. And it's my favorite question to ask them. And I'm like, why didn't this happen exactly like on blah, blah, blah date and did time? And I'm like, because you changed it. And I just wait. And they're like, what? And then the conversation really, up until that point, they don't quite follow that process. I find telling them flat out that you changed it, and therefore it just makes them dismissive of all of it. Instead, we got to go in, because they feel it. At least when I read for people, they feel it. So they have like, yeah, that's real. I know it's real because I can see it while you're seeing it. And then they move to and they recognize in themselves, as we're going through the process, the parts that they change, and I do the same thing myself. So for me, what I'm figuring out, Rebecca, and this has been a long time, like a 3-4 year process for me to figure out this part, because what I find with a lot of us in this community is we're talking to one another so much. We're looking at things a little bit differently, but most people aren't in this community. So they don't get that part yet. They don't understand they have control over what is actually manifesting in their world, number one. And number two, they're not quite at the point where they're ready to take responsibility for it. So those two key components, that's the baseline. That comes right along with being an empath to me. And that's a harder thing to sell people on. The entry point into that doorway is the psychic reading. That's what I've found anyway. If I find another avenue, if you could show me one, please let me know.
That's exactly what I just said. I said it's not always like meant as a rule, but it's just like, and maybe just as perspective that you haven't explored. That's all I'm seeing it as. Not like, oh, you have to do this because this is happening. You know what I'm saying? Those who do that, stay weary of that.
If you're going to an intuitive or a psychic, it's because there's something going on in your life that does not feel like it's going in the right direction for you, or you're confused, or you don't have clarity in some reason, in some area of your life. So for me as a Reiki master, I say to them, you know what, I'll do a combination, but I want to do a Reiki healing on you first to make sure your energy centers are all in alignment, so you can take the reading, so you can use it as tools to move forward in your life, rather than coming back and seeing me every week and enabling that person to think, oh my gosh, every decision I have to make, I have to go to my intuitive or my psychic.
Okay.
That's not what I'm about.
I get what you're saying. Okay. Do you find most of your clients are uber receptive to that first? In other words, being the healing first and then moving into...
Every physical ailment that we have is because of an emotional problem. So if you can clear up the emotional problem and the core issue and give the person the tools to go forward in their life, then it's going to be something they overcome and they're better for it.
I'm so glad I tagged you, Rebecca. I'm so glad I tagged you. You're so perfect for this conversation.
Let me ask you another question, because I just popped into my head. Are most of your clients at a distance, or are you seeing them in person?
I'm in New Zealand, so I'm on the other side of the world from most of my clients. I would say 99% of my clients are Canadian and United States.
Oh my gosh, how cool is that? Okay. Awesome. Very nice. Okay, so you're doing distance Reiki then, really? You're doing distance healings. Okay. And I was just curious because I heard you say Reiki and I'm like, okay. And I visualize, I'm like, is she doing this on the table? I don't know. Okay, good. I'm glad
I specialize in virtual surgery. So Reiki to me is one of my lower level input ways to help people get into the right direction, or a tool that they can use to become in alignment with their true selves and clear the blockages that need to be blocked. And yes, with a healthy diet. But if our energy centers are out of balance, then we band-aid quite often with food or drugs or alcohol, partying or shopping, and it sends us down big black holes. And who wants to do that?
And I'm going to, instead of trying to type this, Derek, I'm going to actually address you right out loud because you're already touching on it, Rebecca. Because he's asking, what about a healthy diet along with all of that? And you're right, that mind, body, spirit component will automatically. Here's how it has happened for me. And food is definitely like, I don't do drugs. I'm not really interested in alcohol all the time. I eat incessantly, people. That's how I stuff my crap down. I eat. So for me, my relationship with food is changing. Part of that is through the meditative process and the fact that I know I'm increasing elevation because I just did John of God and some other different things that are, taking me to a higher level. But I also find for a lot of other people, the way they get there is through changing different components of their diet. And that could be anything from cutting out the carbs, or, taking out sugar in their diet, things like that. Things that a lot of the time, and I have to tell you, I kind of poo-pooed this initially, in part because I've probably been psychic my whole life and I've been eating French fries my whole life. So I'm like, I don't really think that's
Who doesn't?
That's garbage. But there's something to it. When I am eating vegan, which I did for like 3 days, you can feel and sense the difference. Not because it's not meat. Please believe I had meat 2 hours ago. I pass no judgment on eating meat, folks. However, I do recognize the more you cut certain things out of your diet that we all know are unhealthy for us at this point. And you're in a meditative practice or yoga or something that is going to continue to increase, kind of raise your vibration. All of those things factor in to your ability to tap into higher self and to really connect with it and to continue that process, moving forward and to continue to elevate it. So to answer your question, yes, it does matter. It absolutely matters.
So Asaki, look, Horse Crazy said, because remember you saying this last week, he said, can you tell how far an empathic person is to being psychic? I heard that people that are empaths are stepping into being psychic. And I remember you saying that last week. So I was like, I have to mention that.
Okay. So I am going to say exactly what I said last week. At least I'll try to say. I'm sure I was probably channeling it. So stay with me here. Basically, I believe empathy is the walkway, the path, empathy, the beginning stages of your psychic connection. Now, everybody's not necessarily going to become a psychic professionally. This ain't the easiest job on earth sometimes, I'll be honest with you, because you're dealing with a lot of people and a lot of people's energy. But it happens to be what I love because it allows me to do, as you can see, I'm on BLAB. Don't you think this is the perfect format for me? Because I like to talk, people. So it works for me. It may not work that way for everyone, but being psychic essentially allows you to connect with your guides, and I find make better decisions. My guides really kind of, I turn to my guides for almost everything. And when I don't, I see the difference. When I get guided information and follow that versus when I'm just like, we're just gonna do whatever America says to do. There's a decided difference between what guided information looks like and what, the formula gives us that we should do. And when I veer off the path of what my guides are telling me, that is when I find that things don't go as well as they could have or should have. So to answer the question, I believe that empathy is the path to becoming psychic. I believe the two things that really kind of separate that process, when you're empathic, you have a sense of it. You kind of think something's there. It's usually the beginning stages, and empathy is going to really preside throughout the time as you elevate and continue to ascend upwards as far as your energy and your guided ability, it's still it's still going to be one of those things where it stays with you, empathy. But what I would also say is what separates people who are bona fide psychic or really tuned in and tapped into their guides from those individuals who are empathic and still kind of in the curious phase is confidence and a connection with your guides. Those are the two big things. And I'm sure, Rebecca, you can probably speak to this as well. You know, there's always that entry level phase where we're like, what is this nonsense? I don't know. And I'm not sure what to do with it. And I don't really know if I'm talking to myself. Do I need a little? I'm not sure. That happens to a lot of people, especially right now, because the veil has been thin. We're in the age of Aquarius. A lot of new things are happening for people.
Hey.
Things are shifting. Things are changing. That's right, my Aquarius child. Things are shifting. Things are changing. So for a lot of us, especially if we've never experienced this before, this is new. It's different. It's weird. We don't know where to take it. Hence, all these folks in the room, I have no doubt, probably a third to half are either experiencing things or have had moments and absolute signs of something. You're like, what do I do with that information? This ain't exactly, you know, other than on OWN. And even there, you know, it's not an everyday topic. You might get a little piece of this on Super Soul Sunday, but other than that, there's no channel for us to tune into and go, oh, there are the instructions to being empathic. There it is. It's just not how it works, unfortunately. Not yet. Give me time, folks. I'll work on getting us a channel. Anywho, we'll have Rebecca on there every day talking about empathy. It'll be fantastic. But that is exactly, and that's why we convert. You are so right, because that's what we were saying earlier. Yep, you said it. Where we can kind of learn and grow from one another and hear about the experiences, like Nikki talking about how she's experienced empathy and, you know, what empathic has been like for her, and hearing Alicia talk about it. And, you know, Yvette Marie has talked in the last couple of weeks, you know, just hearing what people, how it works for them and what they're seeing and feeling and going, oh, I'm not crazy and I don't need a straitjacket. And this is really coming.
Horse, I disagree with you. I'm glad for no instructions because I feel like the journey of it is more important to honing it in on it than anything else. So instruction would cut out any of that. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's necessary for me to go through this journey and meet and understand where I connect and what I don't connect with. You know what I'm saying? It's necessary.
Let me ask you a question, Horse. And you just respond in writing if you got a sec there. First of all, I'm going to ask, this is my favorite. Please, no, I'm not trying to be offensive when I ask this question. Are you a Virgo? Because Virgos need rules. And there's a couple other signs that really need rules. And that's where, and for those people, they look for, what are the rules to being an empath, or what are the rules to being psychic? And there are some basic guidelines. I'll be frank. You're going to find them in different books and guidebooks. Rebecca's already given you some great baseline information for, you know, this is how to recognize if you're clairvoyant or clairaudient, or these are definitely, you know, there's definitions out there. But here's the thing about all things spirituality. And I say this to everyone, and I'm going to stick by this till the day I die. Nikki's right. There are no formalized rules for one simple reason. Number one, we have rules in all these other religions. It ain't working for nobody. Trust me. It's just not. It's not working. It really, really is not working. Number one. And number two, your spiritual journey is very much your own. And all I mean in that is while you, okay, you're a Leo. Oh, my favorite. I have a Leo rising. Yay, the Leo.
I think, Alyssa, aren't you a Leo as well? I think Alyssa's a Leo for sure. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Very funny. Okay. So, but I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you put it out there because I'm sure somebody's wondering, what are the rules? How do I know? There are some signs, some symbols, you know, some clear demarcation lines that would say, I think I'm an empath. But then there's also that clear knowing that comes inside of you. And frankly, that is a very personal journey because everybody's life is going to be different experiences. So as much as you were kidding, I'm glad you asked the question because it's a legitimate question. And a lot of people want to know, especially the Virgo children. They always want to, what are the rules? Somebody tell me.
What are you saying, Rebecca, there? I see you.
I'm just wondering, I've written an entire blogs on traits of an empath, I'm an empath, what to do now, easy protection, and I just wonder whether you want me to post the link.
Of course, absolutely. Yeah. You probably weren't here right at the beginning. First of all, most of the folks in here are women business owners. We're all about supporting one another. Put it in there, honey. I don't believe in Oh God, this is my BLAB. No, post it, please. Absolutely.
And I just putting it out there. In the next 4 weeks, I'm opening an Empath University so that people will understand exactly what type of empath they are and the rules for each empath and awareness and intent that will help them specifically. Yeah.
Very cool.
Wasn't she an amazing person to stumble across at it was 4 a.m. where I was?
Now I see why you had a real guideline sense of, okay, how do I go about doing that? We're going to have to talk more, Rebecca, because interestingly enough, I'm developing coursework right now for a class, and I was going to skip the empathic part and move right into psychic development. But after I got the response that I did here, I'm like, no, I don't think I can skip it. But you and I should talk. We should definitely talk off when we get the opportunity off camera.
Off chat.
Way off.
Okay. So does anybody else have any other? Because we got a lot of people in the room. Does anybody have any other questions about what being an empath is about?
Someone did ask the question about, I'm paying attention, girl.
Thank you.
It was Des. Are you still here, Des? I'm not sure, but you said, if you're a clairaudient, what do you do to tone it down?
You just ask. You hold intent. It's that simple. You just ask.
So in what I will be doing is a psychic development class. In that class, we're going to talk about really, because I'm a trained hypnotist. So what I use is really guided meditations to take you almost down under to your subconscious and move those tools up, down, wherever you need them to be. That's going to work best for you. But it still goes back to exactly what Rebecca just said. It's all about intent. It's always. If
you're aware, just put the question out there, believe in it, have faith in it, and it will be. And you know what? If it's there for a reason, for you to get a message across, then become aware of what's talking to you, what's coming at you. Ask questions.
Absolutely. I found in my 20s, my guides were talking pretty loudly. Hang on one sec. I'm going to get back to this one. So I think they're having an interesting conversation in here.
Yeah, I'll remind you when you.
Yeah, I did have a phase where I went through where my guys were they were banging on the wall. Let me in. And I had a traumatic event happen. I wasn't ready. So, some years later, we got, that's what all those ear infections were about, because they couldn't find anything wrong with my ears at all. And I'm predominantly clairaudient. I'm like, they're so on the nose when they want to be. I got to tell you, when they're trying to communicate with you, they will find their way in. And sometimes that is for a reason. I probably never needed them more than I did at that phase in my life, because it was a really hard time for me. And I didn't know what to do, how to bring it in. I knew I was interested still in astrology and shamanic work and all kinds of different things, but I wouldn't have known what to do with that information at the time. Now I know better. And I'm going, well, looking back at that, I'm like, I'll be damned. That whole space makes so much more sense to me now. I'm going to go. Yeah. Tell me, Nikki, give me a recap on what the conversation is. Cause I only saw I have to agree to disagree. And
right. So Brophy was saying basically that we all have the gift, but some of us are not as in tune as others. And Steph was saying some people think they have it, but they don't have it at all. And that's where the conversation kind of rolls out. And he's like, well, I don't agree. And, he's saying everyone had the gift. One wouldn't be able to teach people.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, that's where that's going there with them.
Okay. Well, I'll say this respectfully, because I think everybody's experience is different. And the last thing I want to do is give you a bunch of rules, but I'm a big believer that everybody has these abilities. It's just a matter of whether or not you've tapped into them. Sometimes it takes instruction to get to them. So no different from, I'm sure I probably could have been a track star. Never gonna happen, people. But I would have needed a coach, somebody to walk me through the process of becoming a track star. So in order for me to do that, I may have needed somebody to guide me through the process. Frankly, that's what my spiritual counseling certifications are about. It was about developing my ability as an intuitive, as an empath, as a psychic, in order to be able to serve other people as well as myself. So I guess my short answer on that would be, yeah, I do believe we all have the ability. Granted, I may have seen the signs earlier. I didn't know what listen, folks, I was born in the 70s, like I'm sure plenty of people in this room. I didn't know what to call it. I couldn't know. I was walking around and I had tarot cards at 17. I didn't know. I couldn't have told you I was psychic if my life depended on it, because we didn't have that vernacular. So much has shifted in the last decade or two. Now our language is so free in comparison to what it was when we were kids. I wouldn't have known what to tell you that was, but I did know something was there. I just knew I always loved what was alternative. Now it's mainstream. There's a psychic on every corner. So, it's not that different anymore. But I say all that to say some people will need coaching or guidance, or not unlike what Rebecca's doing, what I'm doing in the way of classes. And when you've gotten to a certain place, and in particular, once you've gone through several incarnations or journeys on this, I almost feel like it's an obligation to teach it to other people, because they are left with the questions of, again, why we're all in this room. What is an empath? Now, does that mean that every single person is going to become an absolute psychic from that process? No. And I'll tell you several reasons why. Number one, they may be blocked on it. Our religious beliefs and our societal beliefs came in way earlier than this stuff. We learned to tamper this down and block it out in between the ages of 2 and 6. So that's a lot of old thinking that you'd have to undo sometimes in order to be able to tap into your psychic ability. That may be why you're thinking that some people aren't psychic. They are. However, they're just not there. They may be forever blocked on it. They may be forever. It's not unlike when you meet somebody and they're just incapable of seeing either the good in people or being able to sympathize with other folks. And you think to yourself, what the hell's wrong with this person? Like, are they totally inhuman? No, they're probably emotionally blocked. So they're not capable
I kind of want to address what Citizen Divine is saying. Yeah. He's saying that this is probably like, not this, but what you guys are hoping to achieve is like taking advantage financially of people. But there's nothing out there like that at all. I don't know any other way. Like, to be able to like actually get to know and hone in on anything. It's not taking advantage. I don't feel at all, because I feel like that's something that I would love to take just because I'm in it and I would love to know more about it. And just like if she does this for a living, then she has to pay bills. It's just like when I do graphic design and someone goes to me, well, I can't pay you right now because I got bills. And I'm like, well, what do you think I'm doing this for?
Right.
I love what I do and I'm happy to do it, but I have bills as well. And this is what I've chose as a living. And you came to me because you needed my service.
And that I say that to everyone. I'm an option. I'm not a nurse in an ER where your arm was broken. You walked in and you needed acute care. That's not what's happening here. So if you called me, and all of my clients are by referral. So if you called me, then you surely had the gumption to pay me, because this is literally what I do. So Kia or Honda is not going to take a call from me at the end of the month saying, but I saved a life. I healed. They don't care. That's not.
And what he's not getting is the money that you're paying for something, like whether it's a healing or what is Reiki or whatever, tarot, whatever you're paying for. It's giving you a comfort that small amount of money that you're going to pay out is not worth. It's not even. It's incomparable. You can't put the money over what your life and your lifestyle and your feelings and your energy and your happiness. You can't put the money over that. If you're putting the money over that, then that's how you're going to think. But the money isn't. Like, if I'm paying $10, I'm fine with that.
And you know what? I'm going to add a component too.
Marie, the money isn't time. This is probably services.
Say it one more time, Rebecca. I can't hear you.
The money is in exchange for your time, not your services. And if I'm doing intuitive surgery on someone on the other side of the world, or an intensive Reiki sessions, which can be up to 8 hours.
Exactly.
I'm exhausted. I'm absolutely exhausted.
Exactly.
And especially with Reiki, if there is no exchange, then you're not going to get the benefit. There has to be an exchange. And if you go back to the story of Reiki, it's very, very clear from day dot that needs to happen in order to respect Reiki as a gift, in order to respect that person and their abilities. I've worked 10 hard years after my awakening to get where I am. And I can help mentor other people to do it in 6 months. Why would you want to take 10 years to do something I can help you with in 6 months? Now, there's some value in that, right?
For sure.
Right. And that's really what I'm like. Nobody would go to the car dealership and expect, I'm going to give you a car for free. So I'm thinking, if you value my services, because again, I don't seek my clients, they seek me.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you pay me for that? You know what I mean? I guess that's really where that's really where I'm going with this. And I think for people, I say this all the time, for people who don't charge, I would love to have the luxury of doing that, but I'm not sure how at this point.
I'm a solo mum with 2 children. There's no way that I could go out and do anything else.
I'm gonna add this piece to it, and this is probably the most important, because this is a huge topic in the holistic community, and it's a large part of why a lot of the people in the holistic community suffer, because they don't charge, but then they either have a full-time job, or they have a husband who supports them, or they are very, very, very poor. I do not believe that we are in this industry because I didn't take a vow of poverty. I'm not in the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church provides room and board for every single, the priests get room and board, the nuns get room and board. I'm not guaranteed that as a holistic practitioner. And don't worry, as soon as Oprah figures out how to house us all, on it, I'm trying, then I will no longer charge. But up until that moment, I live in America. I'm a grown woman where on earth I'm on a device with you that obviously costs me money to buy. So the idea that I'd be able to reach you and that would cost me nothing to get there is kind of really off thinking. And I know sometimes people think that way because they're not in business for themselves. I get that part, because W-2 and 1099 are very different worlds, and I've lived in both, yes. So I understand that. However, the expectation, especially when you come to someone for a service, when you go to the Catholic Church or you go to the Christian church, you tithe, people. When you go to your pastor or your priest, you've already put your money in the till. That's why you're comfortable going to your pastor and your priest. I'm not suggesting I'm the same person, but I am saying to anyone who thinks that we should do this stuff for free, you have to check with inside yourself. Now, here's the other thing I'll say to you. I do charity all the time. I do free readings. I do free Reiki. I have no problem doing that. If you approach me and say, I don't have it, hell, I've been there a million times. I don't have a problem doing that. But the expectation that all of my clients I would service for free, this is my full-time job. The logic kind of leaves me. I just don't know how that would work. And if somebody has a plan for it, I'm going to need you to share it with me. Okay? Because I would love to know what everybody's alternative plan to, not being.
I think the basis of it is, though, let's go back to the fact that your title is, I'm going to say, Confessions of an Intuitive, being an empath. An empath, when they're first awake, give, heal, I'll give you all the information in the world that I can. We get completely unbalanced. Our vessels die a slow death while we give, until we start setting boundaries for ourselves. And for an empath, that is the healthiest thing we can do for ourselves, is to set boundaries. And if that means we only give 20%, and we allow ourselves to give and receive 80, then that's actually okay, and that's actually healthy for an empath to be able to do that. Would you agree?
Yes, wholeheartedly. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely agree. Uh-oh, I lost somebody. Let me lose.
That was what's her face? Okay. With the beautiful children.
Oh, yes. Okay, so did I answer? I hope I addressed that. I hope I addressed some of those. Oh, you let her in. You are quick with those things.
Let me tell you, I am a host, so I'm like everywhere. I'm listening, I'm talking, I'm reading, I'm reiterating. I'm good at it at this point. Which is funny because Yvette was probably the first BLAB that I was like in on camera, and like I've come a long way. Let's just say.
It's too much noise on my end.
Yeah, she said too much noise. Aw. But yeah, I hope you keep this up every week for sure, because it's been amazing.
Can I just address one of the questions I got on child empaths? I have 2 very sensitive children. My 11-year-old is an empath, and I've put in one of my blogs, I put the link up earlier, the empath parent journey, which is a tough one for an empath child, and the road in which they take and the struggles in which they have and the opportunities to help them and the tools that they need to be able to function in a school environment, which I feel are really, really important. And again, with my Empath University, I've put in a place for Little Sparks, which is for children and the ability to give them the tools. My son has designed the course, so it's come right from the mouths of babes and his experiences, what's helped him, so that he can reach out and help empaths at a much younger age to fine-tune themselves, and gives them the tools that they need to move forward in their lives in a healthy way, so our empathic children don't end up being diagnosed with ADHD and bipolar disorder and stuck on a whole lot of drugs they don't need to be on. And I'm saying that there are people out there that possibly need to be on that medication. I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but we need to save our empaths from the instability of the Western medicine world. And that's my hope. So I hope that answered the question.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very cool. You got some cool stuff coming.
And that's really good, because Alicia told us about her children last week, about them seeing energies, and remember her daughter sees a spot of color, and like it was amazing, the story. You have to watch the replay, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, you'll see it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm just reading the side panel. Are we still having the same conversation about money? Okay, well,
that's what it seems like.
Yeah, because I'm like, sometimes you will never satisfy, and if you don't want to pay for it and you find people who do it for free, then Godspeed. Yeah. That's just not me, because I can't afford to do that. That's as simple as that.
For sure.
I think we all start off being free and give. And I think there's so many empaths awakening that there's enough free services out there to warrant those people that would prefer it for free. But I'm not going to down the fact that I've spent 10 years getting to where I am to give all my information away to help the core of people make their journeys a whole lot easier.
Right. Right. That's really where I'm coming from as well. And this is a hot topic in our community, because I could feel myself kind of going, wait a second. And everybody else started chiming in, because I think it is, I think it is just one of those things where we all find ourselves, especially if you're already doing the work and you're a practitioner and you're practicing for other people, this comes up. I mean, if I don't discuss this, I haven't left the house if I don't discuss this with the holistic community, probably once or twice a week. I just find it so, and I think people are also, as they're practitioners longer and get more practical about the fact that, yes, we're all practitioners. Listen, we all have these fantasies about the age of Aquarius, and we're just all going back to Atlantis, and everything's going to be fine, and everything's going to be free. But then we have to get to the reality of, we have to coexist between fifth and third dimension. Bottom line, how do you go about doing that? It's just really, and you just said the word again, Andrea. It's about semantics. It's about getting folks to understand, and then it's also about valuing what you do. I've spent money on the training that I have. I have no doubt, Rebecca, that you have as well. It would be like going to college and expecting you to go get a job. And your job.
The value is, one of my clients just said to me this morning, what I've learned from you in 6 months, he said, my life has completely changed. The way in which I look at life, the way in which I am in life, what has come to me because of the changes that have happened in the last 6 months. He said, I couldn't put $1 million value on that.
No,
he couldn't put $1 million value on that, and how much it's made his life, right?
Yeah, so, that's what I was trying to get out before. It's not about
right.
Yeah, what sort of value could I put on my services? I mean, I could put thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on my services,
and
but
some people do. I know psychics in my own community who charge $500 per reading, and they are booked for a year. So who's to decide what the value is? You know what I mean? Based on, because again, she's booked for a year. So obviously somebody thinks she's got plenty of value to put out there. It's not what
or is it that she's manifesting her hopes and dreams, and the exact right people are coming to her that see the value in her services, which is right for them on their journey.
Right. And you're hitting the nail right on the head, because I think it's so important for people to recognize and understand. Sometimes that is about the exchange in all of us in this process, the holistic, the spiritual process is about understanding your own value. When you get to a certain point, you stop questioning that part. So when you get, and I don't get me wrong, I've had mentors who I've gotten into, you know, or people that I really admired anyway, who have gotten into that tit for tat with the value of things and what they think is the value versus what I think is the value. And I think to myself, somewhere we're missing each other, but I recognize why now. I realized in those very same people that they did not necessarily see the same value in what it is that they were putting out there. They did not understand how valuable it was. And I guess for me, I've had the luxury of working in social work first for a decade longer. I come from a long line of social workers. So I think for me, I've had the opportunity from the very clinical, background to understand when you're helping people, and seeing that and hearing it and feeling it, even in those moments, I realize now that was all empathy that was driving the bus on that too. Didn't know that till later, but it really kind of set the pace for how I felt about what I was putting out there. And instantly I thought, of course it has value, because you're touching people's lives. And I'm not sure that there is anything more important. It's like being a teacher in front of a classroom of 35 little people. And when you change, I know my second grade, if I saw my second grade teacher on the street today, I would know who she is. That's worth $1 million. You understand what I'm saying? And I mean, I get feedback from my clients all the time who tell me what the value was to them. So understanding that part of the process and knowing that what you're doing, and it really is a self-esteem issue. You know, it's a learning what it is that you're putting out to the world and understanding.
Yeah, what you think about, you bring about, right?
Yes. And for women in particular, this is a tough topic for women because, good Lord, in America, we're still making, well, really all over the world, but we're still making a portion of what, you know what I mean? So when we in particular are trying to value ourselves in a system that has not taught us very well how to do so, they're teaching a little better now, but that was not always the case. That too factors in. And most of the holistic community, probably 90% of us are women. So you've got that on top of these layers of societal thinking that are coupled with that. You've got these small business owners that are all women, and we're struggling with value, internal, intrinsic value, and then the external value of what we do. This is a tough road, and I only can speak on it because I've walked it. And I have no doubt, Rebecca, you have walked it for a good long time, in particular because you're supporting a household with children in it. It teaches you a lot about, okay, what is the value of what I do? You know, I'm sorry, Missy Beth Marie. Hello. I'm sorry.
Hello, my dear. Hello. Now, I was actually jumping in. Just my whole point you just spoke it was that this comes down to a self-worth issue, and really what it is that, you know, like for me, I have other businesses. So when I say because for me this is ministry. So, and that's what I was trying to get across to Citizen, as that, like for me, I do this as ministry within the church. I've also done this live on BLAB. I sat for 4 hours and gave prophetic words to people, whoever came in, one after another, after another, and after other. It's when you're called to do such things, that's what you do. And like I asked the question, is it your life work, or is it part of your path? And that's the difference. What people don't understand is that when they see other people, true understanding this is removing the ego and understanding that there's levels to this. And so what works for Rebecca and what works for Asaki is very different than what works for me. I am not in a position that this is my life's work. It is my calling, but it's not my life's work.
Right.
And so because they have a value of self, and this is like I said in the chat, the exchange is, the money is for their time, not for their service. And when you understand that the exchange is for money is time, because your most valuable thing you have is your time.
It's time.
Nothing else. Doesn't matter what business you're in. Your most valuable thing you have is your time. So if Asaki says, you know, my time is worth $2,000 per hour, that's what she feels. You don't have to pay it.
As if.
You know, I'm just saying. I mean, like I struggled with pricing for a very long time in my businesses because I mean, you can go and check my reviews right now on my bakery products, best in the whole state. But what was I charging for them?
Yeah,
not enough. And then when I got to that point where I was like, hold up, this same nasty dry ass cupcake up in Scottsdale is $6 and mine are not better. And I'm charging you $1 or $2 for them, and my store is nicer and everything else. You know, I was shocked. And then when the accolades came and the Super Bowl came and, you know, the Oscars came and all that kind of stuff, I was like, oh, I really didn't even charge you more. And what I realized is through doing the work of that was that it was a self-worth issue. And so when you come to realize that it's a self-worth issue, you free yourself up. Once you heal that, you can free yourself up to charge whatever it is you want to charge. Because you know what it is? The fact of it is something is only worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
you got it. Hit the nail on the head.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm here because it's like I was trying to say in the chat, I struggled for years because I would always look at psychics and intuitives and go, how could they charge? That's how the gift is for. That's, you know, the gift is given without repentance, and God didn't charge me to have it. And how could you charge? I went through the whole argument of it, but then I had to realize. There's some of my mentors have been doing this. Barbara DeLong's been doing this for, I think 60 years or 50 years, something like that. So you're dang right the woman should charge. You know what I'm saying?
And I have no doubt she's probably
life work.
Right.
You know,
and that's the other thing I think for a lot of us who are practitioners who become educators. Mm-hmm. And when you've been a practitioner, Rebecca has been in this industry for 10 years. So she is now an educator. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine going anyplace else and getting an education for free? That just doesn't happen. You know what I mean?
But not only that, it works on our experiences. You know, my unique journey has been one of sexual abuse, of verbal abuse, of physical abuse, of adoption, of depression, of disorders, every type of thing you could imagine in the space of 3 years, setting me up to be able to help those specific people that are drawn to me or what I can give or what I can show them, which will be completely different to another intuitive or another Reiki master who can help someone who is maybe an alcoholic, where I have no knowledge personally of being able to help that person unless it comes intuitively. There's no personal experience involved.
Right. And when you do this type of work too, the most biggest thing is everybody talks about ego, and that's what I've always noticed is within the psychic, intuitive, whatever you want to call it, holistic, is everyone's got an ego, and when you leave those egos outside, like I said, this is why we all converge, is because we feed off each other's energies, because we know that we're not strange here, and everyone else gets it. You know what I'm saying? So whether you're a psychic, an intuitive, or a prophet, we all go by different titles sitting right here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so we all do the same thing.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of who's doing it. So when you let that ego go and realize that if you believe that God is love, source is love, universe is love, or whatever you want to call it. You know, and so if that's if the root of everything, we can all pretty much agree that the root of everything is love. You can't have your ego when there's love. So when you let go of the ego, what you think should be done, you're going to be able to see everyone else for who they are and who they were created to be. And so that's all I really want to jump on. Have this conversation all the time, and because I've watched communities really truly fall apart through this. You know, I mean, I was involved with Blog Talk community for years. All the different shows on there. Matter of fact, I'm doing one. They've actually started their own website now because they were having so much drama. They went and started in Tui Talks. So it's basically Blog Talk, but now there's webcams over there. So they posting shows over there and all kind of stuff. You know, I've never felt the need to have a platform. I mean, I did a month-long thing of prophetic word the beginning of last year, I think. And it was just for everyone to get their fresh word for the year. That was it. And then sure enough, you know, people follow you. Well, why don't you do another show? I'll pop on every now and then, and I'll do when the spirit moves me, when God's like, go speak to my people, I jump on and I do it. But I'm not gonna sit and do it the way that these ladies do it, because that's not my calling in life. My calling is marketplace ministry. That's what I do. I have several businesses, several streams of income, because God wants me out sharing love with people on a daily basis in regular places. So I can give prophetic word, whether I'm standing in my bakery, whether I'm standing in my restaurant, whether I'm standing in a catering event. I can, or even just giving whether I'm at the Inc. 500, 5,000 conference, I can stand and give a prophetic word right there because that's who I'm created to be in God. Now, these ladies, they may need to have an appointment booked. They may have to go through their prayer and everything else. Everyone's gift works differently.
Absolutely.
So when you accept that, and you're part of love and part of releasing ego is to accept each of us as we work.
Yes.
That's it.
Someone asked if you could post a link. If there's a link, if you could post a link there.
Link to what, tomorrow's show or just the site in general?
Whatever it is that you feel.
I gotta find the link. Dang. Let me find. Because I have my whole ministry is Love's Gift Prophetic Ministry. So you can Facebook it, you can do all kind of stuff. But we go from churches to churches. You know, we have our own church here. We do, you know, I've done a couple different things. People ask me because I used to do before I knew I was a prophet, I thought I was a psychic. And I didn't know any better. I was so unchurched, I didn't know any better. So I was just on the radio doing psychic readings, and people would love it because I was doing it for free. And they were like, "You're so accurate. Oh my gosh." And then when I joined church and I got saved, they were like, "Yeah, no, that's not what we call that."
There's a whole other name for it.
And isn't that interesting though? Because they're not telling you it's not real. They're just telling you to call it something else.
Right. Well,
all semantic. That's why I started in the beginning.
It is kind of semantics, but this is my own personal belief system. I believe that the source is different. Mm-hmm. Some people talk about their guides. Some people talk about their ancestors. Some people talk about the Holy Spirit. Some people talk about, you know, spirit and this. So I believe that that's why there's different levels to this, because the prophet is to speak the very oracles of God. And all I speak is the encouragement of his people. Don't shake me like a magic 8-ball, because I'm not going to tell you if your boyfriend's going to call. That is not going to happen. You know? But there's people out there who specialize in that.
Because it does get a little, you're like, really?
Right? Is he going to? And I don't. If somebody calls it that nonsense, I'll be like, really? That's what you want? That's what you want me to go to the throne room for? Is that dude going to call you? You already know the answer. So who knows?
That is so funny. That's funny. No, I get where you're coming from on that. I do.
For sure.
I will add this to that though. And it's only because in my own experience, what I find a lot of time, and I find myself getting frustrated with questions like that. But then I finally realized something. Everybody's journey, everybody's path. And P.S. a lot of my clients oddly are either recovering Catholics or recovering Lutherans. Don't know why. I have no Catholicism in my background, except for the fact that I grew up in upstate New York. So I'm not sure what that's about. Maybe it's just because I can relate to it because I grew up around a lot of Catholic people. But I find a lot of the time people are a little conflicted between religion and the thing that I do. So they come to me for information, answers. Almost 9 times out of 10, what they're really looking for is that spiritual connection, which they get. But the questions they're asking are often in ego, very surface stuff. And sometimes we can kind of veer and maneuver through that and get to it. And then every once in a while, I'll get somebody who's just really, really stuck on, is my married boyfriend leaving his wife and all 3 of his kids for me. It happens. It does happen. Yes, it does. And I only say that because I have found myself, there were times I'd get off the phone like, is this chick kidding me? Really? That's why. But I had to, and this is my constant process. And this is actually one of my prayers, when I put the prayers up, please keep me in a place where I can recognize, even when somebody's in the swallows of the dirt and can't get the fact that this is really not a spiritual conversation we are having, but it takes a moment for them to get there. I am always asking for patience to walk me through that, because a lot of the time, I'll be honest, those are the clients where I would just, you don't call me ever again. I'm like, okay, that's fine by me. But I go back because I've talked to a woman for a year, no lie. Maybe once every quarter I talk to her, and the conversation is about this guy she used to be involved with. He married some. It's a mess. Short version, last conversation we had, she says, I don't know. She says, well, maybe I'm evolving. We start talking about the evolution. Maybe I'm evolving beyond this. I don't know if I want to continue to chase this man anymore. Honey, I could, those moments, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where you can feel the pearly gates of heaven open. The light is in the room. You're like, oh my God, it's happening. that's the most magical moment in the world, especially when you've been working with somebody for a long time. And I have asked continuously for patience on this. Like, okay, just give me patience. Give me patience to get through. Because everybody who walks into church and gets baptized or christened doesn't mean they're going to get it right away. They might still end up in rehab 3 months later and then come back to the church.
First time.
Exactly. And I'm like, okay, so I try so hard to stay in a place, and I won't lie to you. I pray for, when I went to John of God, I asked, please take the judgment away, because I just don't want to judge people. You know, I want to be in a place where I go, I take you as you are, and whatever you're struggling with, that's okay. It's still your journey. Let's figure out how to get there together. That is not the easiest process on earth. I won't lie to you. I'd be lying if I said otherwise, because it's a struggle to not get into, you seriously want him to leave his wife. And all 3 of the kids, the 7-year-old asked him to stay. You want him to tell the little girl no? Like, really? You're just that unconcerned? And I'm like,
okay, so Alyssa posted a question. It says, how and when did you decide that you were in tune and you need to follow that and learn more? Was there a turning point? I'm not sure. She said she wasn't sure if anyone asked that.
Who's she asking?
Was there a turning point? She's asking, I don't know, in general, I think. Are you asking someone in particular?
For me, it was a turning point. I went to... I can't use my hands very well because I have arthritis in them, and my husband at the time was a carpet layer, and he was constantly needing a back rub because he had issues. So I looked up on the internet how I could do it but not do it, and what I came across was Reiki. I found a Reiki master who appeared in my newsfeed on Facebook one day. We got talking. I had my first intuitive reading. I then went down the journey of becoming a Reiki master, and my whole journey, the way in which my compass was going was, I want to change the world. I want to heal. I want to help people. I want to give. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm going to trust my gut to know that I'll be guided in the right direction, to have the right experiences to get where I am today. And you know what? As an empath, we get our university degree the day we die. We are continually evolving. We are continually growing. We are continually given experiences to fine-tune ourselves or remove something from us that no longer serves us or blocks us from our way forward. So I think for me personally, it almost felt like a wake-up date that I had pre-designed in my soul contract to, you know what, this is the day you're going to wake up, this is how you're going to do it, and this is your compass to go forward. And I'm blessed enough to know in myself to follow my gut, which is why I got to where I am at this point, and the knowing I have in myself because I've made the changes and I've evolved to get here. So other people, I know it's from birth, from accidents that have happened, near-death experiences. Some it's been passed down from generations. Some, like me, could be just a wake-up date. You know, now's the time. Pull your socks up. I don't want to wait and crap anymore.
Yeah, agreed.
For me, I have probably been an empath since I was 4. Here's the crux of my journey. Up until age 35, I didn't know what to call any of this stuff. I just knew I had some abilities. I've been reading for people since I was like 15, but it was accidental. It was fun. It was just friends, family, whatever. I'm just playing around with the tarot cards. I'm just playing around with the Mahjong cards. I couldn't have told you what it was. I just knew that when it happened, something else, it's a feeling is the best way I know how to describe it. And I knew there was a different feeling in that moment than there was in my everyday, go to work, go to school life. So I never knew what to call it. And there were moments in my life where I kind of separated from it, and other moments when I came back to it. In my 20s, I had a traumatic event. I was sexually assaulted. After that event, my guides were yelling in my ear for months and months and months and months at a time. But at the time, I didn't know how to connect with that. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have the instruction that I have now. So I tuned it out while simultaneously seeking the same information. It's a crazy world that we live in sometimes, because I was reading so many books on shamanic and tarot and all this other. So I was clearly curious and knowing something was there. So this was all a part of the path and the journey for me. But short version, I've had the ability really since I was a very little girl. it came, and in particular in my development years in between 9 and I'd say 13 or so, everything in my life was a premonition or a prophetic dream, to the point where I was tired and I'm like, seriously? Like, oh yeah, I've seen this before. Interestingly enough, that has reoccurred in my life right now. Everything in my life is deja vu. Everything I see, like a lot of the stuff that I see right now, including the last BLAB, there was a moment in the BLAB where I'm like, I've seen this moment before, and I knew I had a dream about it. So my prophetic dreams are off the charts right now. But for me, it's just there. It's innate. I'm a big believer that it is in everyone, and it's just about whether you want it, whether you ever get to the place where you acknowledge it, and maybe you don't for 1,000 different reasons. It's an internal process for every single one of us. So you will find, and I see people writing a lot about their kids, you will find children, especially in this era of time, children are shockingly psychic, because I always believe they're closer to the source. They're more connected to the source. So I have a niece who stood outside with me, looked in the woods, and said to me, I asked her what she could see, in the woods right across the street from our house. And she's like, well, I see something over there. She's like, I can't describe it. She's like, I can't tell you exactly what it looks like. I mean, she's 8 and she was articulating this really well. And she's like, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I just know something's there. She's like, because I'm psychic on Saki. And she just looked at me real matter of fact. And I'm like, okay. Who might argue with her? I know she is. So. And I also found out later in life that the psychic gene kind of runs in my family. I didn't learn that until after I had made a full-on discovery of these gifts, though. So that all that family information that came later. So now a lot of things are retrospective for me. Like, oh, that's what that was. Oh, okay. So I'm getting it all now at 40.
It all makes sense now.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, for me, it was never a matter of being in tune or deciding I was in tune. It was just a matter of receiving it and believing it, because I always just knew things. I could tell you so-and-so's about to call. From a very small child, my mom would get freaked out. My dad would really get freaked out. And my dad was like, stop it, that's weird, don't do that. And so it shut down for a long time, probably about I was 6 or 7. And then it never went away completely. It was always still kind of there. And then when we won't get into what age I was, praise the Lord, because no one needs to know all that. Because time was beauty years of age, about 9 years ago, I was, put it this way, MySpace was the thing, if that tells you something. I was sitting in my living room actually watching the show Psychic Kids. And it was kind of weirding me out. And I was sitting on the couch. I lived by myself. I'm sitting on the couch and I heard audibly, get up, go on MySpace and look for psychic groups. And I looked around like, who's in this place with me? You're like, who is talking to me? And I heard the voice again, like, no, just go do it. And I went on there and I looked, and all the groups were weird to me. And I found one group that resonated with my spirit. And I'm still friends with every single person I met in that group to this day, almost 10 years later. And it was just a very positive and welcoming place for people to exercise, and everyone in there was into tarot cards. And I didn't know any of that kind of stuff because I don't need any of those things, because that's not how I operate. That's not my gifting. So people were like, oh no, what do you mean you got that? You're not using anything. You don't use tarot cards. You don't use this. And I was like, no, and then when they started telling me, well, you need tools. I said, no, I don't need tools, but I understand why people use them, because when I started using them, I was like, oh, wait, what do you mean I'm not gonna sleep for 2 days after this? I'm not as tired. So it helped me get a little bit more of information, but I still stopped using them because I don't do it as often anymore. When I was doing it all the time, daily, and those types of things, then I definitely would have used the tools. But now I do it, 2-3 times a month, and I don't need anything or use anything. So everyone's a little bit different, but for me, it was fully receiving it, believing it, that it wasn't weird. It was part of who I am. And that was 9 years ago at this point. But I've been in it and dabbling in it since as long as I can remember.
Okay. So, okay. Awesome. Nice. And Nikki, our budding psychic.
Yeah, I'm the newbie. I'm the baby. Because I've always had it, but then I my logical side always pushed it back. I always found some logical way to explain why this is happening, why no, it was like, oh, it was just a lucky guess, or oh, I guess it was just easy. Like even when it came down to schoolwork, that was the biggest time for me that was the biggest place for me to say, like, I would know things that I didn't know why I knew, come in and just do stuff. Hi, Ricky. And then other than that, like, it was just like me pushing it back. And eventually I think when I was like 15, even before, when I was a kid, like, I remember my aunt and uncle always did tell the story. My aunt's passed on at this point, but they always be like, when you were like 4 years old, I asked you to pick some numbers, and those numbers came out, but your stupid aunt, she wrote them down wrong, and we lost. The lottery, you could have won millions of dollars. I was like, well, I remember that, but I didn't bring it up because it sounds like a sore spot for you. But it was just something that it was just like, I was just like, oh, it was probably just a lucky guess. It just happened that way. That other people win, so it must have been just a random thing. And then, like, when I was a kid, like in high school, that's when it started to like come back, because I lost my mom at 11, so I kind of just wasn't really like, I was just being, I wasn't even like, you know what I'm saying, interested in anything other than just being. I was a kid, I was just trying to be. And then when I got to high school, I stopped, like, I was cutting class a lot, but I was always going to class and just passing tests easily and just like, hey, I don't know this, I didn't learn this, but I know this, and I would pass it. And people would always ask me certain questions, and I would always be able to answer it. If, like, let's say you told me your scenario, I would always be able to pan it out for you easily without a problem. This is what's going to happen. That's the biggest